welcome. My name is Francis Gashuri from Citizen TV. As we told you again, this is the home of all the media houses. Indeed, one major newsroom. More than 100 personnel from the media houses bringing you this live edition of the Presidential Debate 2022, Leila. And Nairobi County, no doubt, a county of significance, not only for the Nairobians, but for the country at large.
Nairobi is the center of government. This is where power sits. This is the East African hub of business and economics. This is where the international community hosts its international stations. Nairobi is significant because in terms of where the government services are offered, this is where you will find it. Francis, we are not alone. We have an entire panel. It's an expansive campus. Inside, there will be 2 debates that will be going on. We will have 2 moderators at 5:30 p.m. Another set will begin at 7:30 p.m. We have another set of moderators. Wahigo Maura from Citizen Television will be having a panel of experts seated next to us, right beside us. Those are the gentlemen and women who will be analyzing the data, the facts and the figures, and they will be telling us whether our 9 invited guests will be making sense of it all and whether they are ready to become 047 governor in the next 28 days.
Absolutely, Leila. And the search for Nairobi's 4th governor, yes, 4th, because we had Evans Kidero, there was Mike Sonko, there's Ann Kananu, and so the search for the county's 4th governor will be underway in about 28 days. So what are your expectations? What are your views? What are your aspirations? What do you want the governor candidates to discuss tonight? You have an opportunity to participate in this discussion online, on TV, on radio. Join us as we get underway in this debate. And it's a county of significance, as we told you earlier, because this is a seat of power. And more than that, this is a county where the executive sits, that State House. This is where Harambee House is. This is where the judiciary is, the headquarters of the judiciary. This is where Parliament, the 2 chambers of Parliament sit. So Nairobi County is no doubt a county of great significance and importance. And that's why we want to make sense of the 9 men and women who want to be the 4th governor of Nairobi. And we are not alone again. Our colleagues Frederick Muitereri and Beatrice Gatonye wako upande ule mwingine. Kiswahili ndo mdomo wao sasa. Naam.
Beatrice and Fred, hamjambo. Najua siku hii ni nzito sana kwenyu. Tuelezeni ni yapi ambayo wapiga kura katika kaunti hii 047 wanatarajiwa kuyahisia, wale ambao ni wageni waalikwa wataweza kuzungumzia baadaye katika siku hii.
Shukran sana Leila Mohamed, mkiwa na Francis Gashuri, wote wa NTV na Citizen TV. Mimi naitwa Frederick Muitereri kutoka stesheni inayokuwa kwa kasi zaidi humu nchini, TV47. Karibu sana, lakini kabla sijasema sana kwenye mazungumzo haya, nimkaribisha mwenzangu Beatrice ajiseme ni wa kutoka kituo kipi, kisha tuendelee na matangazo haya.
Bila shaka mwenzangu, asante sana. Jina langu ni Beatrice Gatonye Ngetich kutoka shirika la utangazaji humu nchini Kenya, KBC. Na kama jinsi ambavyo umesikia kutoka kwa wenzetu, tuko hapa kama vyombo vya habari nchini Kenya kuhakikisha kwamba tunakuletea kipindi hiki maalum, ama mjadala huu maalum ambao bila shaka wagombeaji kiti cha ugavana hapa jijini Nairobi wanapata fursa ya kwanza kabisa kutoka vyombo vya habari humu nchini Kenya kuja kujielezea ama kuelezea wakazi wa kaunti hii yale ambayo wangependa kuwafanyia na matarajio ama azimio zao kama viongozi wa kaunti hii, yale ambayo wangependa kufanya. Kama jinsi ambavyo wenzetu wamesema, kaunti ya Nairobi bila shaka ni kitovu cha nchi hii, kwani hapa ndipo makao makuu ya serikali ya Kenya. Na kulingana na sensa ya mwaka 2019, kaunti hii iko na watu milioni 4.3, lakini kulingana na ripoti nyinginezo ambazo zimefanywa na mashirika mbalimbali zinaonyesha kwamba nambari hii ya wakazi wa Nairobi inaendelea kuongezeka kila kuchao. Kaunti ya Nairobi, mtazamaji, ni kueleze tu kwa uduchu, kaunti hii imepakana na kaunti nyinginezo ikiwemo kaunti ya Machakos, kaunti ya Kiambu pamoja na kaunti ya Kajiado. Na kulingana na IEBC, kaunti hii inawapiga kura takriban milioni 2.4 kwa sasa. Ikilinganishwa na mwaka wa 2017 kwenye uchaguzi uliopita, uchaguzi huo wapigaji kura nchini katika kaunti ya Nairobi walikuwa takriban milioni 2.2, kumaanisha kwamba zaidi ya wakazi milioni 200,000 kuongezeka ambao watakuwa wakipiga kura wakati huu. Na kama jinsi Mwitiriri ambavyo tunaona ni kaunti ambayo imewavutia wanawake pamoja na wanaume takriban 9 ambao wangependa kuiongoza kaunti hii baada ya Kidero pamoja na Mike Sonko pamoja na Kanonu kama jinsi ambavyo Gachuri ametuelezea. Hebu tueleze majina haya ni akina nani hawa ambao sasa wanataka kuchukua fursa hii ili kuweza kumridhi Kananu na kuendeleza maendeleo hapa katika kaunti ya Nairobi.
Shukran sana Beatrice Gatonye kutoka shirika la KBC. Kuna waniaji 9 kama vile ambavyo Beatrice amesema. Wawaniaji hawa wamepigwa msasa na IEBC na siku ya jana wakachapishwa majina yao yote yakachapishwa kwenye gazeti rasmi la serikali. Majina ya watu hawa ambao watakuwa wakiwania mwezi wa 8 tarehe 9 ni haya: ni Grewal Haman atakuwa akiwania kiti cha ugavana kwenye kaunti hii ya Nairobi. Vile vile Kamau Polycarp Igathe atakuwa akiwania kiti hicho. Mnamjua Igathe ni wa Jubilee. Kariuki Agnes Kagure atakuwa akiwania kwenye kaunti hii ya Nairobi, kaunti ambayo inajulikana sana kaunti 047. Vile vile kutakuwa na Kio Cleophas Motua, kutakuwa na Kothe Dennis Aaron Ochieng. Ni majina tu baadhi ya wale ambao watakuwa kiwania kiti hiki cha ugavana. Mwadime Nancy Wamboi atakuwa kwenye kiti hiki. Nyamwamu Kenneth Kinara pia vile vile amejitosa kwenye ulingo huo mwezi wa 8. Vile vile kuna Sakaja Johnson Arthur yule wa UDA, na vile vile wa mwisho ni Thairo Esther Warenga. Haya ndio majina ambayo ni watu 9 watakuwa kiwania mwezi wa Agosti kwenye kipute cha uchaguzi mkuu mwaka 2022. Lakini kwa sasa mtazamaji, sababu kuna mengi ambayo tumekuandalia kwa sasa, nimpe mwenzangu kutoka shirika na televisheni ya Citizen Wahiga Mwaura aendeleze na atueleze akina nani ako nao.
Barabara kabisa, na shukran sana Frederick Mwitiriri pamoja na Beatrice Gatonye. Mimi najulikana kama Wahiga Mwaura kutoka stesheni ya Citizen TV. And today, of course, we look forward to what will be a very exciting series of debates for the next couple of hours. And to quote that Greek statesman Pericles, who once said that it doesn't matter if you don't pay attention to politics, politics will pay attention to you. And that's why this afternoon into the evening, we hope that Nairobi residents, specifically the 2.2 million registered voters, will pay keen attention as the 9 men and women that have been cleared by the IEBC to vie in that August 9th poll put forward their agenda. Nairobi residents this evening will get a chance to ask some of the questions, to interrogate the vision, the competence, and possibly the character of those men and women that will be featuring in the auditorium just behind the stage, where that debate will kick off at about 5:30 p.m. Now, some of you may be asking, and my colleagues have really emphasized, why Nairobi? This is the county that provides at least 27% of the country's GDP, the most populated county as well. Last figures showing that it was at 4.4 million. This is according to the 2019 census. And also, it's the only county so far that has gotten a chance to implement and see through Article 187 of the Constitution, with the transfer of functions from the county government to the NMS back in 2020, a transfer that should be expiring within the next couple of months. And that's part of what will form the debate with my panel right here at our Studio B. Briefly, to run you through the program, in about an hour or so, the first debate will kick off 5:30 p.m. And this one will have about 7 candidates, those who polled 5% or less in the last 3 polls according to popularity rankings. And this will be moderated by Safin Achieng Ouma of KBC TV, together with Ayub Abdikadir of K24 TV. That's from 5:30 p.m. to 7 p.m. A short break between 7 p.m. and 7:30 p.m. My panel here will analyze what happened in regards to that. And then we kick off with our second panel at 7:30 p.m. And that will have 2 candidates, those who polled 5% and above in the last 3 opinion polls from a popularity perspective. And that will be moderated by Zubeida Kome of KTN, together with Mark Masai of NTV. Wherever you are seated, prepare yourself, don't move, because we've got a lot lined up for you in the coming hours, including the kind of discussion we'll be having here with my panel, who I want to introduce to you at this time. And I'll start from my far left. We are joined by Karen Wakoli, who's the founder and executive director, Emerging Leaders Foundation. Karen, glad to have you with us.
Thank you.
Right next to her is Professor Alfred Omenya, who is an urban development expert. He also lectures both here and in Australia. I don't know where he finds the time. Prof, thank you so much.
Thank you, Edgar.
Next to him, Philip Kisi, a former town clerk at Nairobi City Council, wears other hats as well, and we'll engage with him as we continue. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
On my immediate right, Wanjiru Gikonyo, who's the National Coordinator at the Institute for Social Accountability, also known as TISA. Wanjiru, glad to have you here with us.
Asante.
And we're also joined by Professor Collins Odota. He's an Associate Dean, Faculty of Law at the University of Nairobi. Prof, thank you
very much, Waiga, and good evening, viewers.
Thank you very much. And I want to start with you, Philip Kisia. You've sat on that seat. You have an understanding from a practical perspective of what it means to be the CEO of this county, even though the functions may have been slightly different under the previous dispensation. What are you looking for this evening from the 9 men and women that will present themselves before the country that will give you an understanding that this person not only has a manifesto that makes sense for Nairobi, but also understands the nitty-gritties, the deeper issues around what it takes to make Nairobi the kind of city that we'd all, and county that we'd all desire for it to be?
Okay, I think there are basically two issues that I will be looking at. One is the issue of competence. We've talked about competence. Does that candidate have the competence required to run a capital city like Nairobi in terms of management, in terms of leadership? And then, of course, does he have political experience? That's very important because you're running an institution that requires a combination of all those things I've talked about. The other thing, of course, is, there's been debate of whether having somebody schooled would be desirable to run the county. I can tell you without...
Schooled?
Schooled, yes. At least, basic
what level?
education.
Okay.
Basic education. And I was talking to Prof just before we got on air, and we agree that basic education is minimum a degree. That should be basic. So, other than those competencies, does a person have passion? Because this is a very thankless job. Don't get in thinking that you're going to be glorified. You'll wake up in the morning and receive all manner of abuses, so you'd be ready for it. So if you're not somebody who is passionate about doing this job, please, you're in the wrong space.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the candidates are listening to you, and some have already started arriving, and we'll be crossing over to them as soon as we have that opportunity. Wanjiru, for you, and I know for TISA as well, the accountability question, very crucial at this time. Will you be listening to what the candidates will say in regards to the transition from the county to NMS and how they foresee that transition back once NMS's term expires in the next few months?
Yes, of course, we are very interested in that because Nairobians have been disenfranchised in terms of the ability to execute our self-governance as anticipated under the Constitution. With the transfer of our functions, public participation has been low, the accountability, the voice of citizens has been low. But I think one of the other things we've been very keen to look at is governance. When you look at Nairobi County, we've been plagued by poor leadership, poor governance. When you look at revenue, because for government to be able to deliver services, you need revenue. The revenue collection has been falling, yet the burden on those paying is very onerous. So where is the money going? It's going into the pockets due to lack of accountability in the revenue collection systems. At expenditure level, also we've had poor governance. So what are the practical proposals on the table around governance? Then the other is inclusion, because majority of Kenyans live in informal settlements. A majority of Kenyans work in the informal sector. Yet we look at Nairobi as the seat of government. We are talking about big business. But where are the majority of Nairobians in the plans of the governor? So these are some of the things we want to hear so that we can have an inclusive, accountable, human rights-based form of government that really creates transformation in Nairobi.
I'm glad you brought up the issue of housing, because I know that's a pet topic of Professor Alfred Omenya, who's obviously an urban development expert. What are you hoping to hear, Prof, in terms of how the candidates will tackle two sticky issues? One, what some have described as an unjust transport system that many Nairobians have to bear with on a day-to-day basis, and also an unequal housing system as well. Very few can own their own homes, I think under 10%. And majority rent in one form or the other. And that really is the reality of living in Nairobi County.
Yeah, thank you very much, Waiga. I think you're spot on there that this is one city that is very clear that both national and county governments don't understand. In fact, I've written before about a city without citizens. If you ask these people whom their citizens are and where they are and what they do, they don't know. So we are still in the realm of the colonial city where all of us are meant to be strangers in this place. So you're right, Wahiga. I mean, it'll be quite interesting. Or Nairobians are very excited about the expressway, but then you ask which Nairobians? The expressway at best can only ferry up to 2 to 3% of this city. 46% of Nairobians walk to work. I want to hear what the candidates are suggesting about these people. They're the majority. 40% use matatus, chaotic as it is.
So for you, previous slum upgrade programs, plans to have BRTs, etc. For you, not yet.
Is not yet Uhuru. That's 86% in matatus and walking. Then, Waiga, you belong to just 15 to 16% that drive cars, and you're also stuck in traffic jams. So basically, there's no transport in Nairobi at all, even with the expressway, because we can argue that only 4% of the city is catered for now. But then quickly to come to housing, again, we'll be asking, who are these city residents and where do they stay and what type of housing do they need? Wahiga, studies that we're doing now shows that while national government planned to do 500,000 houses, they managed to destroy during COVID up to 150,000 houses. In fact, in Mukuru, they destroyed 46,000 houses in one place. So forget about what these guys are saying that they're doing in Pangani. They've not delivered even 4,000 houses. They've managed to destroy, and I do have the statistics, over 150,000 houses on the basis of infrastructure.
And that's
Kenya Power, Kenya Railway, I don't know, bus park, expressway, and so on. So basically, government, the city and the national government have been able to deliver, if you understand maths, about negative 140,000 houses.
Okay,
we
do understand math.
What they intend to do
and I have another professor on this panel who also has a real keen interest in housing and housing inequality. But before that, let me mention, I've been informed one of the candidates is actually here, and we'll bring you some pictures of that as soon as we have them. Kenneth Nyamwamu, who's a candidate on the United Progressive Alliance Party, and we'll let you know more about him in just a bit. But Prof. Odote, housing inequality, I know a big concern for you as well. I can allow you to pick up where Prof. Omenya left off.
Yes, I think Prof. Omenya was talking about that the government has created negative 140. I do not know too much maths, but I know that means instead of creating, they have reduced. But I think the question of housing is a critical issue. Critical for two reasons, Wahiga. Number one, the majority of Nairobians stay in informal settlements. Majority. And if you go into any informal settlement, you know these people suffer from two problems. Number one, they do not own the land on which they sit. So the question about security of tenure becomes a critical issue for them. So they have the risk of always being evicted at every point in time. I would like to hear about practical conversations about how will we stop evictions of people in informal settlements. Because a lot of the times you'll hear people say government will take the land. But the majority of that land is allegedly private land. If you go to Mukuru, for example, the conversation about, so how do we ensure that we have tenure regularization that A, does not cause problems, but solves the problem. That's the first critical issue. The second critical issue is the access to basic services. In majority of these places, access to water, access to electricity, access to sanitation becomes a huge issue. It is world renowned that the person in Kibera spends much more money on water than all of us on this set. Unacceptable in this age and time. And I think the COVID situation made it worse. And I think it's important that the candidates tell us practically what they're going to do about informal settlements in terms of housing. That's, I think, the first thing. The second, and I think that's the point that Prof. Omenya was making, over the last 5 years, as part of the Big Four agenda, the government has been telling us that housing is one of the critical things of the Big Four agenda. If you look across Nairobi, you do not see how that housing has been delivered. But there's a third component of housing that I think we miss. I was talking to a friend of mine today morning. If you even go to middle class areas, go to your Kileleshwa, go to your Hurlinghams, you find that over the last 8 years with the incoming of Chinese, we have decided to build houses that does not match the services that are available in that place. Places where houses used to be bungalows, where houses used to be 2 stories, we are now at the 20-story buildings. No improvement in service in terms of water, no improvement in terms of sanitation.
Some would say that's just a reaction to our population growth.
Yeah,
and trying to cater for it with the limited space that we have, or how do you see it?
You are saying trying to cater for it. They're not trying. It is catering for itself. The beauty of leadership is to ensure that you solve challenges in a manner that is sustainable. You don't allow things to happen on their own. If you go to any of those places, they are close to a slum. It's unacceptable. And if we go with that trend, we'll have situations where people are busy buying water as opposed to having access to water services. So I want to hear about how the person who comes in is going to solve the problems of Mukuru in housing, but at the same time recognize that the people in Kileleshwa also have a housing problem. But 2 other things that I think are important.
Briefly, please.
I think the 2 other things that are important for me is I'm looking for a leader who has integrity. So I want to hear questions about what's the integrity of that person, because the amounts of money that this county holds is huge. When the former governor took over in 2017, I was being told this morning, we had a deficit of 15 billion as a county. We're now at 85. That means that we increased by 70 billion. Is it that we have been unable to pay, or that money has been saved for? So I think the issue of integrity is critical. The last issue that's critical, and I think the people who are speaking, I think it's Laila who was talking about it. Nairobi is the international headquarters. You have several UN organizations staying here. So a leader who recognizes that you are not leading my county, Homa Bay. You are leading a city that requires huge profile for the benefit of the entire county. I think it's extremely critical in terms of the conversation.
And I'm sure the people of Homa Bay would hope that Homa Bay will get to the statue of Nairobi as well.
Yes.
But I do get your point, Prof, on the same. And Karen, jumping over to you right now, of the 4.4 million that were identified as residents of Nairobi in the last census, I bet you a majority are young people.
Of course, yes.
You've had the issues raised, transport, housing, inequality, etc. Are young people, does Nairobi offer young people, and maybe it's a redundant question, does it offer them opportunities? And what's your concern with the organization you lead this afternoon?
So the organization I lead is called Emerging Leaders Foundation, and the basic thing we do is that we look at the question of values across board, values in government, values in service, in the political space, in community leadership, in every aspect of leadership. So we nurture values-based young people. And so this evening I'll be looking to see, are these individuals presenting themselves to be elected individuals of values? Are they leaders of integrity, like Dr. Odote put it across? Because then integrity and values would actually translate to the quality of their leadership. Like many of us have pointed out, the question about income versus debt and expenditure versus transformation. It's a big question within the city. And like you rightly put it, majority of the population within the city are young people below the age of 35. The issue about insecurity is a big issue. The question about livelihoods, the question about the widening gap between the rich and the poor. What is the agenda of these individuals in terms of reducing that gap and raising up families and individuals from the poverty line, to be able to live lives of dignity? So those are some of the things that are really, really keen for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
At this moment, I now want to get the thoughts of my panel on the first debate, the one that will kick off in the next hour or so. And of course, this is the 7 candidates who polled 5% or less in the most recent polls. And Wanjiru, I want to start with you on this one and get a sense. When I did my own unofficial poll before we started with my panel here, some of you were not aware of some of the names on that list. So what do you do as a candidate this evening when you come for a debate like this? Maybe you're known to some within your spheres of influence. Maybe you're not known at all. What do you do to create impact across all TV and radio stations at a moment like this?
Right. I think, first of all, it's great that we have many candidates, because that shows that our democracy is working. Right. It shows that people have put themselves forward. What we'd like to see from the alternative candidates, if I can call them that, is the agenda.
Many would protest at that.
They might protest. Let me be very careful. Let me be very careful. From the candidates who will be speaking today is agenda setting. Because anytime you have a public platform, more so a platform as esteemed as the gubernatorial, being a gubernatorial aspirant, you have a platform. So you have the opportunity to shape the discussion. So we want to see how well do they understand the real problems of Nairobians, or of Nairobi as a county, as have been espoused here. Because there tends to be a discussion about Nairobi in legal terms, for instance, the NMS conversation. It was very unfortunate that an unconstitutional action that was supported by the head of state and the head of the county government put Nairobi in this situation.
An unconstitutional action signed by the current governor?
It was unconstitutional. We went to court on it. We went to court on it. The court was, gave a ruling that gave government the opportunity to regularize the process. But it was done. It was done illegally. It was done unconstitutionally without public participation. Now, how well do these candidates understand these dynamics? How well do they understand devolution? Because the other thing we have is candidates with very good ideas, but those ideas might undermine the Article 174, the chapter on devolution, in terms of how the implementation will be, how they envisage the implementation. They have an opportunity to frame difficult conversations, especially around accountability. Once you've taken the platform, it's my hope that these candidates will continue to engage and will become a point of accountability, because obviously if your numbers are very low, if you're not on a leading political party, it shows our democracy maybe is not yet mature enough for an independent candidate or for a candidate from a smaller party to win the big numbers.
Okay.
But we are heading there. We remember during the Moi regime, the opposition had to fight to be profiled nationally, but eventually they made it. So it's to encourage these candidates to say, you are breaking ground for us, but please make use of the platform you have beyond maybe just profiling yourself. Stay in the space.
Okay.
Let us know who you are and have a long-term view.
Let me pick up with what you've said with Philip Kisia, who's actually worn the politician's hat before, in addition to being a technocrat. And I'm sure you had the chance in 2013 and 2017 to watch previous debates. How much do these debates sway the views of the electorate, in your view?
Wahiga, let me be very candid.
That's a great way to begin a statement.
All right?
Yeah.
I think I can tell you.
Proceed.
Let me tell you, it has no value. It has
then what are we doing here?
Wahiga,
Philip Kisia, you're telling me these men and women have gathered.
I said what? I'll be candid. So
Okay.
don't get offended.
You have the diplomatic license
Don't
to
get
be candid.
offended.
But just for today.
But I'm saying that it adds little value. Why am I saying this? There are three fundamental issues that determine who becomes what in the political space in this country. Unfortunately, don't say that I prescribe to what people think, but number one is your tribe. People in this country vote.
Talk about Nairobi.
Even
Nairobi.
I am talking about Nairobi. People look at the tribe. Which tribe are you coming from? Because eventually, when the voter goes to the booth, he'll be voting a tribe, unfortunately. Number two, linked to the tribe is the political party. Which political party is controlling who? Because most of these political parties are not based on any ideology. They are tribal parties. Let me tell you, they are a group of fellows who have come together from different regions and have formed a party or a coalition of parties. Okay? Number three, it's not about ideology, I said. Very unfortunately, number three, right, Waiga?
I am.
Money. So if you get into this space and you don't have sufficient financial resources to roll out your campaign, you'll be in trouble. Because corporates, people in this country do not invest in politics. They don't give you a time. They don't give you a management information system. They don't give you anything. So they wait until you've crossed the line, then they pick up a discussion with you. But before you cross that line, you are nobody. So those three, I'm telling you, Waiga,
let me get Prof's reaction to this.
Unfortunate, but that's the reality.
I'm going to come back to you because it sounds like you have a personal story or two behind those. I wouldn't be surprised. But Prof. Omenya, if Philip Kisia is to be believed, to be the next governor of a county like Nairobi or any of the other 46 as well, you need to be from the right tribe.
Right.
align with the right political party,
Right.
and have money. Nothing that he has spoken to alludes to all the other things you good folks have mentioned to me this afternoon. Oh, they need to have understanding of this. I want them to articulate. None of that has come up in terms of that success formula.
I think generally, I will not agree with Philip on this one. I think Nairobi and I'm just from Mombasa the other day and so on. Kenya is becoming way more complex than we'd like to accept. Of course, if you look at Sonko's story last time, I mean, if it was tried, then Peter Kenneth should have won the previous elections. but then, of course, Sonko had many. So we don't know which parameter plays what. But I think, number one, some of these are starting to get overrated. There are some fringe candidates in this country that are making a big impact regardless of their tribe. I mean, let's mention Wajakoya, for example, with his unusual sort of campaigns. And people in Mombasa are saying, look, I mean, we'd rather lose with this guy than all these other fellows who've taken us for a ride for many years. So I think it's actually quite complex. Yes, money plays a big role. The political party does play a big role, I agree. But this city actually has ways of communicating that are very, very interesting. Sorry to use this example, but for example, Kenyans on Twitter, when we complained about the French fries from some country, and it's our children who eat there, KFC started sourcing locally. So let's not underrate, the space and the platform.
Yeah.
But having said that, I think for me, I've had a chance to address the EU Parliament. I've had a chance to address fringe parties in Europe and so on. I would like to say, and this is in relation to the candidates, that really politics is not always about winning. Sometimes we get into politics to put a particular agenda on the table. And the politics may not necessarily even be about winning the gubernatorial race. You could put the correct candidate in Babadogo, that is pushing some local agenda. And like they say, all politics is local. That's where it starts. And to me, this is the encouragement to all those gentlemen and ladies who are running, that if you do actually have an agenda, put it on the table. Do not be afraid. It doesn't matter whether you end up just winning 2% of the vote and so on. If it's an important agenda for the city, put it on the table.
Okay, that's a good message to them. So for you, you're looking at two things: who would sort of come out on top, but also whose agenda will come out quite clearly. Prof. Odoti, I'll come to you shortly, but Karen, I want us to talk about this money tribe political party. You are yearning for more and more young people to get into elective offices. When you hear what Philip Kisias has to say, and he said he's just being honest. He's been out there. I don't know who else might have tried to vie on this. I don't know if anyone else has given it a shot, but he has. And he says this is the reality on the ground. Unless, Karen, you're also looking.
I have been in politics before, but I put it aside to then do the work I'm doing now. But let me also be very honest. Such a debate is a really, really powerful platform for accountability. I have seen communities around the city organizing their own small bringing together aspirants and asking the questions and asking them to sign to peace, to sign to doing certain things once they get elected to office. And there's accountability when it comes to that through, let's say, civil society organizations, communities, and young people. And I do not refute the fact that money plays a big part in who gets elected. And that the political party,
Karen,
again...
I'm going to interrupt you. I'm going to give you a chance to carry on. Let me introduce one of the candidates who's just stepped in. This is Nancy Wambui Mwadime of the Usawa kwa Wote party. There she is making her way to her... Obviously, she'll be escorted to her holding room where she will then wait for another possibly 1 hour or under for the start of the debate that she'll be featuring in. Nancy Mwadime, Usawa kwa Wote, is the political party that she was cleared to vie on under the most recent gazetted IBC list. Nancy Wambui Mwadime is the name, one of the 7 candidates making her way now into this facility here at the Catholic University of Eastern Africa. The debate will be taking place at the Pope John Paul VI Education and Learning Center, and that's where the debate will take place this evening. Both debates and the subsequent debates on the 19th and on the 26th as well. Next week, Tuesday and the other week Tuesday as well. I'll be introducing the other candidates as they come in. Esther Waringa Thairo, an independent candidate, has also arrived here, and I'll continue giving you those updates. We should have at least 3 now who are present here, if not more. And as soon as the teams give us an update, I will bring that your way. Karen, briefly, I can allow you to finish your point.
Yes, political parties. We have watched the last 1 month, a couple of weeks actually, even today. So Infotrack and TIFA have released polls about political party popularities versus candidates running for office. And you can see some individuals defying the political party lines and going beyond that. So parties, I don't think parties carry so much weight like they did in the past, though there's something around political parties. And in terms of tribe, I am seeing a situation where different political parties are coming together to form the coalition to say, let's run together. And they're not just on one tribe or a couple of tribes, you know. So tribe is really, again, not a big factor. I am seeing a situation where track record is going to count because there's been a little more awareness about politics and the impact of politics in the quality of life that we live as Kenyans and as citizens. But when it comes to political financing, I believe that we're still quite a distance away.
It's more than the elephant in the room. It makes a big difference.
We still need to work on that because sometimes you find candidates who are awesome, have a track record, are men and women of integrity, but they don't get elected simply because they don't have money or they do not want to bribe to then get elected into office.
Prof. Odote, pick up off the back of that, and I'm sure you have reactions to what some of the other panelists have said. Even as you tell us, we've seen an emerging trend. It started in the States. Obviously, presidential debates have been happening there long before we started here in 2013 under the 2010 Constitution, where candidates intentionally stay away from debates. Is that a strategy? Does it work? Does it matter?
I think it does for those who stay away because you assess yourself and determine this is not my strong point. I do not want to make my bad situation worse. I do not want to ensure that or I don't want to give preference to my opponent. I think my opponent is a better debater. My opponent has a better track record. So I don't want to expose myself. That's the reason why people stay away. So they stay away because of strategy. But I think your original question to us was the people who are coming between 530 to 730, those who are below 5%. What should be their strategy for this debate? And I think the people who are coming between 530 and 730, from the numbers, I think they cannot run the campaign as those above 5%. Because those above 5%, then the factors that, especially the first 2 factors that Philip spoke about, becomes critical for them. The factor of the tribe gives you recognition. The factor of the political party gives you recognition. The reality is that those 2 factors don't give recognition to the people below 5%. So they must play on something else. And that's the critical question. And I think playing on something else today becomes a critical day for them. Because playing on something else means that you must have some issue on which people recognize you for. I don't want to talk about this election, but remember Mwalimu Dida. We still all remember Mwalimu Dida. From where?
Do you remember what issue he stood for?
No, but we remember him from the debate. Not because of the issue, from the debate. Yes, and you remember him from the debate because the strategy for Dida was not the issue. The strategy for Dida was to come to you as this simple Kenyan who represents you, who is able to avoid complicated things and speak. Even until today, there are still jokes on Twitter about Dida commenting about this election, and you will listen to it. If I ask you, who are the other presidential candidates? You won't remember 5 of them. Yes. So I think that the person who comes today, if you are these 7 people, you must ask yourself, I want to leave a mark on the minds of Nairobians. And remember, there are 24% of Nairobians, at least according to the polls, that are undecided. Those people are not thinking about the tribe. They're not thinking about they're looking for something different. So your duty must to give them that something different. The question is, what do you consider as that something different? And for me, looking at 530 to 730, that's all I'll be looking for. What is it that is different in this person that will make me stop and listen to it? Because that's what the Nairobians will listen to. If you go to Germany, for example, there's a party that only stands on environment. Correct. That's all. So they only want to appeal to you. They don't care about the other things. So you must be able to fashion yourself, if you're these 7 people, on something that people can be able to say, wait a minute, although I thought Waiga was my candidate, I actually think Shiro is talking about something that I should stop at listening.
Resonates with
Yes.
you. Philip, you took us on a tangent. We've gotten lost in it. You vote, but you've been told, however, that there are fringe candidates who lack some of the things you've mentioned, but still make an impact. Do you agree that anomaly can happen? And if you've seen such examples, what are those other factors that these fringe candidates have beyond money, tribe, and power and access to it that could make a difference in a race like this?
Waiga, sometimes it is better to be brutally honest to yourself. And what I've said is from my heart.
You do not retract it?
I'm not going to retract it because that is the bitter truth. Now, just before I answer your question, I think the debates are very important. I cannot, underscore the importance of such a debate. As a matter of fact, if you go back to history, NCBDA, where I was the chairman, was the first one to organize a presidential debate. You can check the records, okay? So I put a lot of weight on such a debate. Now, let me just very quickly comment on what my brother, Prof. Omenya, said. In politics, you have no business being number two. Because if you are number two, you cannot sell your agenda. You get into political space so that you can get power. Yes. You don't get in there to be number two. Number two is irrelevant. Actually, number two is no better than number 10. You're all the same. Because you've all lost. Okay?
Well, you've totally disagrees with you.
You've completely lost.
And you have the right to reply after this.
One second. And once, Waiga, you've lost, you become irrelevant. That's the bitter truth. In Kenya, you can ask many people who have been there, including myself. Unless you have something else to offer, Kenyans beyond politics. Okay? Now, if things like track record were to be taken into account by political parties in this country, Philip Kisia would have been a governor because of a track record. Jim Nambaru would have been a governor because Jim Nambaru has a track record. Even Peter Kenneth, who tried, and I warned him, and I told him, Peter, once you miss that ticket, once you miss that ticket, please just step back and start lobbying for a job. That's the reality. So,
what did he respond?
Of course, he never listened to me.
Well, he's not here to give his side of the story.
I heard somebody talk about Kenyans on Twitter. People on Twitter don't vote. Go and check. The guys who vote, the 24% Prof is talking about, those 24% are waiting for direction from either Baba or the hustler man. They're waiting. Like in Nairobi, they're waiting to hear. Baba has not come to tell us which is the direction. Are we voting for A or B? Once Baba gives that direction, you can be sure. You can be sure because if you look at the two candidates,
talking about the two that
if you look,
top,
the two that have appalling beyond 5%.
Right.
If you analyze that data that we have, you'll find that 20% of people supporting Raila in Nairobi are not supporting the Azimio candidate. So what are they waiting for? Are they waiting for Baba to talk, to say something? Are they waiting for that? But I can tell you the issue of competence here will not count. You can wait until maybe in future. In future, things like experience, competence, integrity. In fact, when you look at integrity,
yes,
integrity is about number 10. Go and check. Infotrack, go and check on TIFA. People don't care about integrity. In fact,
actually, their biggest concern
most of the times, if you've stolen public funds, you become a fan of the people. If you've stolen public funds, because then you're able to do what? To deal with their stomachs. Tumbo policy. You remember what Moi said? The Moi. So if you can, and the voter will tell you, when I was going around the Westlands, the voter would tell me.
This is your example for this one.
My personal example.
Yes.
They will tell you, Kiongozi, we've had you. We know you're competent. What are you giving us now? Yeah. Forget about talking. That's true.
This just a few months back.
Yeah, I mean, about 7-8 weeks ago.
7-8 weeks
Forget about what I was talking to them. My ideology, my level of integrity, my experience. All those put in one basket. To them didn't make sense. What made sense is how much Kiongozi, and when they tell you Kiongozi, we've not seen you on the ground, it does not mean that they have not seen you. It means they have not tested your money. Go and ask Jim Nambaru. What happened to him, how many votes he got, and he's a billionaire. I'm not a billionaire. He's a billionaire. Go and ask my friend Peter Kenneth what happened to him in 2013, and I told him, please step back and go and look for Uhuru. He'll give you a job. He never listened to me.
Right.
Where is he now?
Philip Kisi, I need to speak to all those individuals and get their side of the story. What do you know?
Right, yeah, Philip is...
It may be hard truths, but it sounds like he knows something. He's been there.
He has been there. He has been there. There's a dispensation we are moving from, the winner takes all dispensation, which the Constitution tries to temper. And the reason I disagree when you talk about fringe candidates, number one being the only important candidate, that's not true. Legislation in the House can be brought by any party. So by virtue of a fringe candidate profiling themselves, that party has got members, some of whom will run at MCA level. So the moment you're profiling your political party, it's not just one seat we are looking at. There is the governor, there is also the MP, there is also the important seat of the MCA. And an MCA in the House has a vote that counts for citizens. So I don't agree that it's a winner takes all. Our Constitution has sought to remove that winner takes all approach. Now, I do agree, unfortunately, that politics has become a lot about money. Our electoral system is still broken, but we are in the process of trying to reform it. And how are we trying to reform it? When you have fringe candidates putting forward an agenda that they can then popularize with the public, you put pressure on whoever will get into that seat. And I think the last point I want to make is the Constitution envisages a consultative, cooperative approach of government. Now, our Constitution isn't perfect, our political framework is not perfect, but it is not a winner takes all. You have seen decisions of the president being countermanded, whether it's by the courts, whether, in fact, court action taken by civil society institutions or individuals like Omtata can go to court and hold the president to account. So every political space counts. We are no longer in the winner takes all dispensation, and we must encourage Kenyans to be bold. Stand up, but also know that you've got a lot of political clout that you can pull from very many corners. So it's not just the governor. One of the challenges the governors have faced, and this is where I agree in our kind of very poor political culture, is the role of the MCA. So much as a governor is going to come and give us a political promise, they then have to deal with the politics of running the county, the civil, the public service, but also the county assembly. And this has been a real weak link in terms of devolution. So fringe candidates are like the main candidates of the larger parties operating in a very imperfect system. But we have the opportunity to set agendas. Even as civil society, we also set agendas. We have passed policies. We have gotten laws passed, even in this county. And we do it with, in some cases, with nominated members.
And I think for you, setting the agenda is so crucial, sometimes even more crucial than winning.
More crucial than winning. The gap we have is implementation. The non-implementation is a challenge that plagues all. And so we still need to push with accountability. So no, fringe candidates have a role. There's a lot of opportunities for power and pushing. Let us take them. Let us encourage fringe candidates. Let us encourage those out there and get rid of the winner takes all mentality. That one is not right, and it's not taking us forward.
Okay.
Waihiga, I wish to add to that.
Okay.
You say that the number one issue of concern for Nairobians is the cost of living.
Cost of living.
But you see how that is actually directly related to the question of values and integrity. So right now, as candidates are busy campaigning, people are saying, give me something for me to listen to you, for me to listen to what you have to offer. They will go ahead and give them that something they want, but how will they recoup that money? They get into office, they will look for the slightest opportunity to actually make their money back. So it's more now about self-interest and not the interest of the public at heart. So again, it brings us back to the question of values, that integrity actually counts. It's the cornerstone, and it determines the question about whether people live in dignity or not.
And Philip Kisia says he's never been asked about integrity questions when he goes on the campaign trail. It's a different question altogether. And you rated integrity very high. In fact, I think you are the first one on this panel to say, that's what I'll be listening out for. compare and contrast what you're feeling today with Philip's honest statement that
I think,
it might matter here, but it might not matter on the campaign.
I think we are talking about two sides of the same coin. So I think there's a point that everybody is making. The point that Philip is making is that the current situation is that this is what people look for, that you're either number one or last. I think this debate, in my view, is not about what is. This debate is about what should be. Because the debate, if my understanding of the role of the media is, it's also about shaping public opinion. So if any of these people who have below 5 is going because he wants to be number one, that is his principal motivation. To be brutally honest, to borrow the words of Philip, they are in the wrong space. But if they recognize the role that they are playing in this process, and that role is to bring us to a situation where the person who runs should not be winning based on lack of integrity. Mm-hmm. They should not be winning based on tribe. They should not be winning based on political party only. And I think they have a critical... But if you look at this election, Wahiga, the thing that is interesting, I was telling somebody that I think except for very few... Look at those who have been declared elected and opposed in this election. How many? Just 2. 2, or actually 3. 1 women rep from Kericho and 2 MCAs from the Rift. Across the country, many of the places, before, if you are from the right political party, after nominations, you came to Nairobi and waited to be elected. I can guarantee you, Wahiga, the bulk of the MPs are in the village. Because there is no guarantee. In fact, the political party has become a yoke in many of their necks.
Yes.
So Kenya is changing, which is a nice thing. The one place where we haven't changed is money. I think the amount of money being dished out by a political party, in fact, you go to a rally, people don't want to listen to you. They want to line up. So for me, I see the candidates coming today, moving us away from this thing about integrity does not matter. Moving away from this thing about, if I'm from the wrong political party, if I'm from the wrong tribe, I will go nowhere. And I think there's a critical role for that to happen.
The latest survey, I believe, by a research institution was that you need about 26 million to be a member of parliament in this country, 39 million to be a senator. And that's in terms of what mobilization, and of course all these other things that Philip Kisi has spoken of. And if you spend 40 million on your campaign, what are you hoping to recoup once you get into office? Prof, we need to move forward. We need to talk about NMS. We need to talk about the intro of the next governor. But I know you might have a final comment on this.
Yeah, but my brief comment on this is that we really need to look at this from a governance point of view rather than an individual. In fact, I think Philip could have gotten into trouble because he was... the star performer outside there. Myself, I'm quite excited that, we have almost 7 parties represented here on this gubernatorial debate. But also, what kept coming to mind, Nairobi has been terrible in terms of participation and engagement of citizens, hence the NMS issue. But then I was thinking about Mandera. That has been amazingly stable, where we had a governor who actually had no MCAs. All MCAs came from the opposing party. And when I sat with Roba and asked him, how is he governing the county? He told me, no. There are systems, there are programs, there's agreed, the MCAs consult, there are house committees and so on, and it is his role as a governor to implement. And I was like, I wish so many other governors would look at this. And I think that's the biggest problem with this country and is the biggest problem with this county. They must start to understand that what we're trying to create is a political system, is a governance system. We are not looking for stars who are going to mesmerize us with brilliant ideas. We are looking for people who will go and have debates with those fellows who cannot understand policy, but get to the heart of their problem and start engaging them. People will listen to parties and what parties are putting on the table. People will sit down with MCAs and the agenda and convince them. People would actually develop a plan and implement it. Not these useless buffoons, wearing gold dog chains and entertaining people. Those people have no space in governance. The future doesn't belong to them. I think we will leave it there for now. Let's switch gears. Let's talk NMS a little bit, because you cannot talk about Nairobi County for the last 5 years without referencing NMS, its record, what worked in your view, what didn't work as well. Wanjiru already made her feelings quite clear, so I'll come back to you shortly. Let me hear first from you, Philip Kisia. When the history books are written of the tenure of the NMS, what will they say about NMS in your view? What did NMS get right? What did it get wrong? Even as we discuss how it got into office.
Now, I think our sister, Wanjiru, made it very clear that the route that the government took to put NMS in place may have had some faults. It was maybe, for lack of a better word, it was illegal, because it did not involve the people who are being governed. But that aside, was it necessary, given the time that this presidency had left? He had I think 2 or 3 years left in office, and Nairobi being the capital, he had to take action. So maybe, other than blaming the person who took action, we probably need to relook at the act that governs counties. How fast can we remove a governor who is not performing? Because the process is too tedious. It takes time. By the time you remove him, his time is over. So back to NMS. NMS, of course, I think if, in terms of short term, there's something that you can see. There are roads that have been fixed. There are pedestrian walkways that you can see. There are hospitals, dispensaries which have been built, but I'm told there's no medicine, but at least there's something. So they've done something. But I can tell you, from where I sit, they could have done much better given the resources that have been deployed to NMS.
Okay, and that's why I'll interrupt you, because I'm told we have an update we need to give, but I'll come back to you as we dig deeper into those 4 functions that were allocated to the NMS: health, transport, public works, and planning, as well, and development services. But first things first, we continue to, and of course my colleagues are across this campus here at the Catholic University of Eastern Africa, really trying to get you updates as and when we have them. Let's now hear from Leila Mohammed and Francis Gashuri as more candidates continue to stream in. Leila and Gashuri?
Thank you very much, Waihiga. Indeed, the hour is nigh. In the next 30 minutes or so, we are expecting the main event to begin proper. Quite a convincing panel that you have there, and they're articulating matters that are critical to the 2.5 million registered voters in this county of Nairobi. Many have spoken about unemployment. The cost of unga for them, Gashuri, is very critical to them. Water, transport for this area, and insecurity are some of the very few basic things that Nairobians are looking for. Currently, we are aware that 3 of our invited guests are here, Gashuri. Maybe you can take us through a run of who these individuals are. And we also have our other crew members who are in this expansive campus that is Kwaya this afternoon.
Absolutely. And just before I go there, Leila, it is important to point out that Nairobi, just as a critical county as it is, home to millions of Kenyans, 4-point-something million of them, 2.5 million of them registered as voters. Some of the critical issues they will be looking out to when they are deciding who will be the next governor of Nairobi County include basic issues like economy, the county's economy, cost of living, infrastructure, transport, water, sewerage, such facilities, such services. Remember, quite a number of these functions are also devolved, but much as they are devolved, remember there is the relationship between the national government and the county government. Nairobi County, Leila, receives their biggest chunk of the devolved resources every financial year. So you're also looking at a person who can be able to manage the resources that will be allocated to county government of Nairobi. And not just the county government of Nairobi, but also the resources that are sourced from within, the licenses that people pay, the levies that people pay. So you're talking about a budget running to close 30 billion shillings. So you need somebody who has the capacity to manage the resources. And so the ability to respond to the questions that will be posed by our moderators and our panelists, insofar as the question of economy is concerned, is very, very critical. So if you wanted to come to this debate, please don't. Stay at home, watch the TV stations, listen to the radio stations across the country. Even the digital platforms will be alive because if you're not an invited guest, you will not be able to get access to this facility. Our colleagues Beatrice Gatonye and Frederick Muitereri will be at the registration desk, and they will be taking you through what is happening there. And so the guests continue to arrive. And by the way, Leila, I see people asking questions. Why do we have two separate debates, two tiers of debate? One, because there's a series of opinion polls that were conducted, and those who got 5% and above will participate in the first tier of debate, and those who got less than 5% will participate in the second tier of debate. So the second tier of debate will begin at 5:30 p.m. up to 7 p.m. and the first tier will the second tier of debate of debaters will have their time between 5:30 and 7 p.m. and then 7:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. The first tier of the governor candidates will be here. And so, Leila, let's go to the registration desk where Beatrice Gatonye is. And Beatrice, kama mtu anataka kutoka nyumbani aje kwenye hii debate, anaweza kushiriki?
Beatrice, kabla hujazungumza, zulia nyekundu ipo tayari. Sijui ulipo ni shughuli gani ambayo inaendelea kwa sasa, manake in less than 25 minutes the main event is expected to begin proper. Kindly give us a mental picture, physical one, on what is happening at the exit or the entrance of this campus.
Asante sana mtazamaji, kama jinsi ambavyo umekuwa ukitazama, huu ni mjadala mkubwa kabisa wa wawaniaji kiti cha ugavana katika kaunti ya Nairobi. 9 wanawake pamoja na wanaume ambao wangependa kuiongoza kaunti hii kuanzia tarehe 9 mwezi Agosti mwaka 2022, yani mwezi ujao, na tunazungumzia siku 28 kutoka sasa. Wana Nairobi wataamua ni nani atakayekuwa akiwaongoza. Na hapa ambapo nilipo mtazamaji, ningependa tu kukueleza kwa ufupi ni yapi ambayo yanaendelea hapa. Iwapo mpiga picha wangu ataweza kukuonyesha, hapa ndipo wageni waalikwa wanafika na kujiandikisha, na inathibitishwa kuwa kwamba ulikuwa umejiandikisha na kisha unapewa tag kama hii ambayo nimeishikilia hapa. Hii yangu imeandikwa The Presidential Debate 2022 Nairobi Governor Debate, alafu kisha jina langu na ninafanya nini hapa. Mtazamaji, kama ambavyo umeona kwamba hiyo ndio tag ambayo unapatiwa utakapofika mahali hapa. Iwapo uko nyumbani na ulikuwa unafikiria kwamba sina la kufanya sasa hivi, wacha nikimbie kule kwea mimi nijionee moja kwa moja, hautaruhusiwa kufanya hivyo iwapo hauko umejiandikisha kupitia mtandao na kisha uweze kufika mahali hapa. Kila mgeni ambaye anafika katika eneo hili ili kuweza kuhudhuria mjadala huu wa wawaniaji ugavana hapa katika kaunti ya Nairobi, hawataruhusiwa kufika hapa iwapo hawatapitia katika eneo hili ambapo wanathibitishwa kwamba wao ndio wageni waalikwa. Na baada ya kuthibitishwa wanapewa kadi kama hii hapa, unaiweka kwenye shingo lako ili usiwe na hali ya utata na wale ambao wanatuwekea usalama katika eneo hili. Na mtazamaji, hapa ni eneo la kuthibitishwa kwamba wewe ni mgeni ambaye ulikuwa umealikwa na kabisa umefika, na ukisha baada ya hapa unaelekezwa hadi eneo ambalo unastahili kuwa, na huo ndio katika eneo ambalo mjadala wa siku ya leo utakuwa ukifanyika, ukumbi wa hapa Kwea. Na mtazamaji, ningependa kukuelekeza upande ule mwingine ili uweze kupata picha kamili ya jinsi mambo yalivyo hapa jioni ya leo, kwani wageni wetu na hasa wale wawaniaji kiti cha ugavana watakapofika, kuna eneo maalum ambalo wametengewa. Watakapofika wanaketi, wanapumzishwa, wanapewa kikombe cha maji, sharubati kidogo hapo, ili waweze kuwa katika hali nzuri kabisa watakapofika pale kwenye ukumbi kuweza kukabiliana na kuwaeleza wana Nairobi yale ambayo wananuia kuwafanyia. Na kwa sasa naomba nikuelekeze kwa mwenzangu Frederick Muitereri ambaye yuko katika eneo hili maalum ambapo wageni ambao tayari wamefika atakuwa kitueleza ni akina nani wamefika na wanajihisi vipi jioni ya leo, wamejiandaa vipi ili kuweza kukabiliana na wenzao katika mjadala huu wa wawaniaji ugavana katika kaunti ya Nairobi. Frederick Muitereri, iwapo unanipata, mpira kwako.
Shukran sana Beatrice Gatonye kutoka shirika la KBC. Mtazamaji, jinsi ambavyo ulielezwa hapo awali ni kwamba matangazo haya yanakujia kwako kupitia televisheni zote humu nchini, vile vile radio zote za kitaifa na radio zote za mashinani, zaidi ya radio na televisheni 85. Kufikia jana walikuwa wamesema kwamba watakuwa kipeperusha matangazo haya, na kwa vile vile kuna wale kwenye mitandao ya kijamii vile vile tuko pale. Kwa hivyo mtazamaji, tunashukuru sana wewe ambao umetuenzi na kuendelea kutazama televisheni yako ambao unaipenda sana. Mimi ni Frederick Mwitiriri kutoka kituo kinachokuwa kwa kasi zaidi humu nchini TV47. Hapa mahali ambapo nilipo mtazamaji ni mahali ambapo ni muhimu sana. Ni kituo cha kwanza wanapofika kutoka pale ambapo Beatrice Gatonye yupo, wanafika hapa, wanakuja hapa, wanapewa mankuli kidogo, kitu kidogo. Unaona zuria tu ni tamu sana ile ambayo iko mahali hapa. Wageni waheshimiwa ambao tulikuwa tunasubiria wako mahali hapa, nitakuwa nikisemezana nao baadaye mtazamaji. Tu nikueleze, tutakuwa tukipiga kura kama mpiga picha wangu atakuonyesha. Tutakuwa tukipiga kura baadaye tu ili kukuonyesha mtazamaji wetu hivi ndivyo tutakuwa tumesimama hapa, lakini ni baadaye, muda wa dakika kama 20 hivi ama 10 hivi kutoka sasa. Lakini kwa sasa mtazamaji, sababu hapa ndipo tunaita kwa kimombo holding area, mahali wale ambao wanawania ugavana mwezi wa Agosti tarehe 9 wapo hapa. Nizungumze na wawili watatu ambao wamefika hapa, wanieleze wanahisi kiwewe ndani yao au wanasema kwamba wako tayari. Nianze na Haman ambaye ni kijana mdogo sana, miaka 25, ambaye atakuwa kiwania ugavana kwenye county ya Nairobi. Asante sana. Thank you so much for coming today. How are you feeling today?
Thanks so much for having me today. Feeling good, very confident. Right now we're just waiting for the debate to start, and I'm taking this time to prepare, meditate, collect my thoughts, and I'll relish the opportunity to brief the nation on my manifesto and my plans on how to help Nairobi.
Thank you so very much. Unamsikia anasema kwamba hapa najitayarisha pole pole sababu mjadala utakuwa ukianza. Kumbuka kuna mijadala miwili siku ya leo. Kuna mjadala wa kwanza ambao unastahili kuanza mwendo wa saa 11 dakika 30 hivi, dakika 30 kutoka sasa, ama ni dakika 20 hivi mtazamaji. Vile vile hayuko peke yake Haman, tuko naye Esther Warenga. Asante sana na karibu katika matangazo yetu ya siku ya leo. Unajihisi vipi?
I feel confident. This is a day that I've been waiting for, and I'm happy that it has come. It's today. So I'm confident of this day, and I thank God for everything that He has brought me this far.
Thank you very much. Did you come with your family?
No, I came with friends. My families, they are not here. They are in the US. So I came with friends, many of them.
Being in the US, I know they are asleep or they're just waking up. Are they watching the debate?
In fact, they are. They are actually communicating with me as I'm here.
Yes.
And they are quite excited and happy.
Very well.
Yes.
Asante sana mtazamaji. Ni wale ambao tu wamefika kwa hivi sasa na kuonyesha tu picha mahali ambako wanakuja wanastarehe kidogo, wapumzishe, ndio isiwe wakifika pale mbele wanakiwewe. Niende kwa yule mwingine bwana Nyamamu ambaye shafika hapa, atueleze naye anahisi vipi siku hii ya leo. How are you feeling today about the debate?
Pretty good actually. We've been campaigning in the ground very hard. Drumming up support, so we are ready to sell our manifesto so as to speak to the broader audience using television. So I'm really excited about that.
Thank you very much. Asante sana mtazamaji. Alikuwa mtu wa kwanza au mwaniaji wa kwanza ambaye alifika mahali hapa, kwa hivyo yuko tayari, anasema kuhakikisha kwamba wale wakazi wa mji wa Nairobi wanamsikiza siku ya leo. Na wewe mtazamaji ukiwa hapa jijini Nairobi namsikiza, na uweze ikiwa utampa kura zako. Kutoka hapa nitakuwa nikirejea baadaye ili kupiga kura hiyo ambayo nimekueleza. Hapa tutakuwa na wawaniaji 7 kwenye kipute cha kwanza, kisha kipute cha pili nitakuwa nikikueleza. Kwa sasa nimpe Wahiga Mwaura aendeleze matangazo yetu.
Shukran sana Frederick Mutiriri. Tunaomba uendelee kutupasha wengine wakiingia tafadhali. And of course we'll continue to give you more updates. We know that when there's quorum there, a ballot process will take place to allow the respective candidates to go through this process. A very important one because it determines where they'll stand on that stage. All 7 candidates. It's not randomly chosen. Rather, the ballot will determine where they'll stand, the speaking order as they make their first or opening statements and as they make their closing statements as well. And I know that will be happening shortly. We were shown a glimpse of that as our Frederick Mutiriri continued to speak to the various candidates that have already arrived. Kenneth Nyamwamu was the first to arrive, vying on a United Progressive Alliance party ticket. The history we could get of he's a data analyst. Also has been, I believe, a registered nurse and worked overseas at some time. We also had Esther Waringa Thairo, an independent candidate. She's the CEO of a property company. And of course, Harman Singh Grewal of the Safina Party is a legal brand developer, helps law firms to develop their brand. He also has some sort of ICT expertise. He's also an athlete who I'm told vied or competed for Kenya in the 2019 Kabaddi World Cup. We are expecting Agnes Kagure, an independent candidate. She's an insurance executive and a businesswoman. Dennis Kothe of the Liberal Democratic Party, a journalist, and has also been a diplomat to the African Union. Nancy Mwadime, who's also in the real estate sector under Usawa kwa Wote party ticket. Cleophas Kio, Ford Kenya, formerly the ICT director at the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics. Those are 7 names, and those 7 are the ones expected for that first debate that actually kicks off in the next 20 minutes or so. The clock is ticking. Debate day now almost turning into debate evening, even as we get closer and closer to that 5:30 p.m. start. But we were talking briefly matters NMS, and of course also reflecting on some of those statements made by those candidates, even as they give their expectations. You can see a measure of they're expressing confidence, but one can imagine an anxiety that comes upon you as the moment gets closer and closer for you to address the nation. Philip, you said you organized the first one was
NCBDA.
NCBDA. You are an organizer though for that one.
Yes.
Yes. And what came out of it?
I mean, it was the first one, so you people built on what we started. And that's why I say that I also believe in debates, because when we started, there was no interest. The interest level was very low. But I'm happy now, out of, I think, 7 or 9 candidates on this race have offered themselves and they're here. So the interest level is growing. And like the other panelists said, that, I mean, who knows? 5-10 years from today, these debates will mean a lot.
Correct.
They will mean a lot. Because then people start looking at issues and not short-term gain. But for the time being, for another maybe 5 or 10 years, short-term gain is what is really selling the candidates. And when we were offline, I was talking to Prof, and he said, yeah, I mean, he agrees, but maybe he may not want to say it on air. But money, I'm telling you.
There's an online version and an offline version.
Let us get back to NMS. You had asked whether they have done well. I've said, of course, they have done well. Considering where they took the county from, would you have better have the governor who was elected, who probably was not doing a very good job, or rather have NMS who have done something? But I can tell you, no, I mean, you can shake your head. This is a reality.
You're
shake your head very hard.
Not me.
No, let my sister shake her head very hard. But that's the reality. Because it's about results. And if you're not getting results, are you going to waste your time with this character who is not producing the desired results? Because if you do waste your time, the blame will shift to you. And in this case, the blame was going to shift to one Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, who gave us Mike Sonko. Okay? Now, NMS. Where could NMS have done better?
Briefly.
We have the new plan, Nairobi Integrated Urban Development Master Plan. Okay? It's very simple. This is a document that was produced by Nairobians. I have not seen them make any reference to this plan. If they were making reference to this plan, we would not have seen the green terminus where it is. My brother is a planner. How can you say you want to decongest CBD and smack into CBD, you bring a terminus with, I think, 1,000 vehicles per day? What logic was behind that particular project? Was it just space or opportunity for people to make money? I'm yet to get answers, because I've consulted planners in this country, and they have told me clearly they were not part of that plan. So there are certain things that they would have done better with the money that they have received from the national government. And I can tell you, when I was running the city, the highest transfer I got from the national government was 2.9 billion for a year. So in my 3 years, I got 6 billion from the national government. NMS, I think, in the last 2 years, I've got what? Almost 70 billion? Almost 70 billion. They've handled almost over 70 billion. We must be seeing that 70 billion, not just in infrastructure, like health centers that have been built. We must see health centers that are equipped, that have medical doctors, that have nurses. What is the point of having a good building without medicine, without the personnel?
Okay. Well, in a most recent interview with NMS, there was the challenge of a previous debt that the county owed, the KEMSA, for example. But we can get into that a bit later on. You've referenced Prof. Menya, so let me allow him to immediately jump in. And you've talked a bit about the logic behind the expressway. He's brought up the terminus as well. Let's talk about the thinking around these projects that were meant to decongest the city, and of course the role of NMS in implementing some of them.
Yes, thanks, Wahiga, and I agree fully on this one with my brother here, that there are two issues here. I mean, in our law, it's quite clear that expenditure, public expenditure, must be done according to a plan, not
Prof,
outside
it's
of a
only
plan.
on a panel like this when I can interrupt a professor. Right. In ordinary life, it wouldn't be allowed. The balloting is happening. Let me immediately take our viewers there, where we'll get to determine the order in which they will stand at that auditorium. Frederick Mutiriri.
Shukran sana Wahiga Mwaura, jinsi ambavyo umesema ni vizuri sana. Ni kwamba kitu ambacho tunaenda kufanya wakati huu ni kwamba tutakuwa tukipiga kura. Tuko na wawaniaji wane ambao wamefika kwa hivi sasa. Wale wengine watatu tutawasubiria wakifika. Iwapo wakati ambapo wataingia tutapiga kura nyingine. Lakini kwa sasa, sababu tuna wawaniaji wane, hao ndio tutaanza nao. Watafika hapa, watachukua nambari hivi. Ile ambayo wataichukua, hapo ndipo mahali ambapo watakuwa wakisimama. Tutaanza naye Haman, if you can come. You can pick a number in here and then show us. Very well, you can show the camera. Show the camera. Amechukua nambari 3, kwa hivyo nambari 3 imeondoka. You can have your seat. Thank you very much. Ma'am, asante sana. Chukua nambari kisha utuonyeshe. Amechukua nambari 1, kwa hivyo atakuwa kisimama pale akiwa nambari ya kwanza. Asante sana. Thank you very much. Please, if you can come, Mr. Nyamwamu. Asante. Chukua nambari pale kisha utuonyeshe. Mtazamaji, tunafanya matangazo haya kwa uwazi kweli. Amechukua nambari ya 2. Asante sana. Thank you. You can have your seat, sir. We appreciate. Ma'am, karibu sana. Tunapiga kura jinsi ambavyo atasimama wakiingia kwenye mjadala. Anafungua kwa sasa mtazamaji, amechukua nambari ya 4. Asante sana, tunashukuru sana. Hao ndio watakuwa kiingia hivi sasa. Nilikueleza kwamba mjadala utakuwa ukianza mwendo wa saa 11 dakika 30. Ni dakika kama 10 hivi kutoka sasa. Tuko naye Haman ambaye yuko eneo hili ambaye atakuwa kiingia pale ndani. Vile vile tuko naye Esther Warenga ambaye yuko hapa ndani, Nyamwamu yuko hapa ndani. Kisha tuko naye candidate wanne ambaye yuko hapa ndani. Hao wote wanne watakuwa kiingia pale ndani na kisha watakuwa kianza mjadala wakiwa wote wanne. Tulikuwa tunatarajia 7, lakini watatu wakiingia, sababu Nairobi huijui. Watatu wakishaingia tutakuwa wakiingia pale mbele. Kwa hivi sasa tutakuwa tukirejesha matangazo haya kwake Wahiga Mwaura, kisha atatuelekeza tutaenda kwapi.
Well, the clock is ticking indeed. The debate starting in the next 11 minutes or so. 4 candidates here, waiting for another 3 more. But time waits for no man, no woman, no candidate. And the debate will kick off on time. Of course, our moderators are on standby for that, and we'll be getting to that shortly. But let me get 1 or 2 final thoughts from my guests who are here still with us. Prof, I interrupted you. Let me apologize once more and then allow you to make your statement.
Yes, no problem. I just wanted to add a little bit on to what my brother Kisia here was suggesting. If you look at our law, the Public Finance Management Act, County Government Act, Urban Areas and Cities Act, and others, the law is clear that expenditure must happen according to a plan, and planning has to be integrated. And planning is participatory, so it's meant to be a mechanism of accountability. So I know that people were saying NMS built an hospital, built a road. The question is, what plan were they implementing? Were they implementing the county integrated plan? Were they implementing an annual development plan from the county assembly and so on? Because the way that was structured was that the participatory space was left for MCAs and with no budget. And then meanwhile, I mean, you had NMS that was doing things. I think as Kenyans, we need to really think why we have the systems and the laws the way we have them. Particularly on the matter of accountability, not just through the systems that we have, but also accountability to the population. I don't care if you gave me a good dictator who's delivering roads and so on. Who told them I need a road? That's the question I'll ask. And again, it goes back to what I was saying there, that these are city without citizens. We are not treated as citizens of this city. Nobody listens to us. Badi and his people wake up in the morning and create those ridiculous things that Philip was talking about. And now they're talking about, they're even trying to connect expressway to the CBD that will actually be adding insult to injury. I had somebody from national government saying they forgot to put that one. I mean, it's stupidity. And meanwhile, we have a new plan that actually spells out how the transport system within the city should actually function. All you need to do is to get somebody with a small brain to implement those plans. But what we actually have is an autocratic system that, as far as I'm concerned, has no place in the spirit and the letter of the constitution of this country.
Philip Kisia, in one sentence, because I know Karen needs to speak, Prof. Dota needs to speak. Technocrats don't listen to politicians, or politicians don't listen to technocrats?
I think
what do you say in one sentence?
In most cases, politicians don't listen to technocrats. Very unfortunate.
Very unfortunate. Prof. Dota, come in and weigh in on this NMS discussion. You're reading even as the tenure of NMS should be coming to an end.
I think several things about NMS. The NMS problem did not start with NMS. The NMS problem started in 2017. And that's why, for me, this debate and the elections are critical. When you elect trouble, trouble follows you throughout your entire period. And unfortunately, trouble followed Nairobi throughout the entire period, because when we were electing in 2017, we were electing trouble. And I think that's the reality.
Well, the man that was elected says he got in trouble for fighting corruption. That is his defense, that the cartels ganged up against him. He's actually looking for a seat in another county as we speak.
And may even win. But everybody has a defense. Even the devil must get a defense. But the reality, two things. One is that the transfer of functions to an NMS is actually contemplated in the Constitution. The Constitution contemplates that there may be a situation where the county government fails, and therefore you need to transfer functions. So the transfer itself is not unconstitutional. What is unconstitutional, what is problematic, is the manner in which it was done. The manner in which it was done has demonstrated the troubles you see in Green Park. That eventually, if you look at NMS performance in terms of the hardware, they've actually delivered in terms of hardware. And I think on that, Philip is right. In terms of the software, we have suffered. And the Constitution recognizes that you don't need one and not the other. You need both. So when you assess look at it.
I'll interrupt you because I'm told I have 1 minute to a break. Let me allow Karen to speak on NMS brief. I have 1 minute before I take a break. Go ahead.
I will talk about the bit of listening to the citizens. Leaders need to listen, but a number of times they don't come from a place where they genuinely want to do something for the people, and therefore they will listen. Even when it comes to public participation, it's more tokenistic than meaningful. Look, for instance, at the number of young people in prisons today. It's crazy. Look at insecurity. You cannot be walking around the city past 7 p.m. Look at the healthcare system within the city. People getting locked up in hospitals because they cannot afford to pay to then live. Look at education in terms of the inequality. Young people studying in the informal settlements versus in the upmarkets. All these questions, if you have a good leader, or you have good leaders who then tap into the power of technocrats around them and make sure implementation is done to the latter, implementation of the plan is done to the latter, and there's accountability, and you listen to the people, because then the power belongs to the people. But as it is now, the power belongs to those in positions of authority.
That is how you see it, and I'll cut it there. I know we need to interrogate that further. I know, Wanjiru, have your debt. I will repay it after the break. Let's take a short break. You're watching the inaugural Nairobi Gubernatorial debate organized by the Presidential Debate Secretariat. And of course, it looks to be an exciting one. First one kicking off at 5:30 p.m., next one at 7:30 p.m. You don't want to touch that dial, whichever station you are watching or radio station you are listening to. Let's take a short break. We'll be right back. We're live from the Catholic University of Eastern Africa.
Check it. Let's talk about banking.
And I am Safin. Two debates between candidates running for the office of governor of the city of Nairobi. It is the first among the 6 debates under the auspices of the Joint Media Presidential Debate Secretariat.
The candidates participating in the debate have agreed to the rules and the guidelines requiring them to conduct themselves with utmost decorum, address each other with respect, and extend honor to viewers watching this debate live across all Kenya's broadcast media platforms.
The candidates in the debate have also agreed to adhere to their allocated time. Each candidate has 2 minutes to make an opening statement, 1.5 minutes to answer a question, and 60 seconds for a rebuttal. The topics have carefully been selected after a thorough assessment of sentiments of the regular residents and voters in the city of Nairobi.
In line with the debate rules and the best practices, the questions we shall ask have not been shared with any of their campaign teams. Neither were they discussed or formulated in conjunction with anyone. The questions are entirely our own.
An invited audience seated here in the auditorium has also agreed to the debate rules. They have been fully briefed that cheers, jeers, or any other form of noise is not permitted during the debate. We, however, make the exception now as we request the audience to applaud and welcome candidates to the stage.
And we begin with the first candidate who will take the first podium in this debate. I call on to the stage Esther Waringa Thairo, an independent candidate.
You can give them a round of applause. Appreciate her as she takes her position. And the second candidate we are going to be engaging tonight is Kenneth Nyamwamu of the United Progressive Alliance Party. Let's appreciate him.
The third candidate for this debate is Herman Sin Grewal of the Safina Party.
Also with us tonight, we have Nancy Mwadime. Nancy is running for the gubernatorial race under the Usawa Kwa Wote Party.
And here are the topics for this debate: governance domain in the city of Nairobi, leadership and integrity, which is a key ingredient in the 2010 Constitution of the Republic of Kenya, We'll also be addressing transport issues, and utmost important and of importance, we'll also be talking about the living standards in the city of Nairobi.
And we begin this debate by just giving you a chance to tell Nairobians who you are and what your vision for the city is. I'll begin with you, Esther Waruga, in order of the ballot that was just done a few minutes ago. You're the first candidate to have your 2 minutes to tell the city who are you and what is your vision for Nairobi residents.
Thank you so much. My name's Esther Warenga Thairo. First of all, I would ask you to allow me to give thanks to God for who He is, and to give thanks to God for the plans He has for us as a nation, and also to give thanks to God for raising men and women who have taken this bold step to be counted by Him. I thank all of you, the viewers, and I thank those who are here with us. Special thanks goes to all social media services for giving us this opportunity to be able to present ourselves to the people so that the people can decide who they're going to vote for, who will be their leaders on August 9th. I begin by saying that if you look at Nairobi City right now, is a city that has its potential, a city that has a vibrant people who are willing to work, a city that has young youth, young men and women who are actually indulging into crimes in order to survive, and a city again that the corruption is at peak, a city again that has the looting being done by those we are electing. It is a very sad situation to see that even our investors are taking businesses away from this country and taking them to other countries. So it's a sad situation. And I'm here to say that once I've been elected, I'm going to give an authentic, transformative leadership. And I was born and raised in Kawangware. By then it was known as a slum city. But I did not look at myself as a slum girl, but I saw myself as a girl in the slum. That made a lot of difference. And that is what has kept me here.
Your time is up.
Thank you.
And before I go to Herman Singh Grewal of the Safina Party, we'd like to state that one candidate of the Liberal Democratic Party, Dennis Hode, did decline to attend this debate in writing, while 2 other candidates who have been cleared by the poll body IBC did not communicate. Herman, to you, in 2 minutes, what's your vision for Nairobi County and your priority areas?
Okay. My name is Herman Singh Grewal. I'm the Safina candidate for Nairobi County Governor. One of the reasons I've been backed is because I have a huge background in IT. I was born in Nairobi, I've studied in Nairobi, and I've worked in Nairobi. Initially, I was a lawyer. After that, on the side, I used to practice as an engineer, and we used to do fabrication with my family. After that, I began doing charity work, and I moved into starting my own IT company. My IT company founded the first AI lawyer in Africa, and from that we began innovating other tech solutions for leading social issues in Kenya. If you'd like to read some of the 8-point manifesto I have, you can log on to harman47.com, spelled Harman 47.com, and you can download my manifesto in English or Swahili, and we'll detail that in the course of tonight. In my manifesto, you'll see me speaking on how I plan to provide free education, free healthcare, employment to the people of Kenya. I speak on the hybrid economic model. That is something that I'll detail further on today. And it's a well-structured plan that circulates heavily on IT and launching Nairobi into the next generation where we can revolutionize how we operate as a country. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, and we move to the next candidate, Nancy. Nancy Mwadime, you get the opportunity to tell Nairobians who you are and what your vision for the city is. You have 2 minutes.
My name is Nancy Wamboi Mwadime, a girl who was born in Murang'a and grew up, went to school to Murang'a, Mugoiri Girls, and later went to school in Senior Chief Koinange, and thereafter I went to India for further studies. And as I stand here, I want to stand for many of us who grow up in up country, then they come to Nairobi, they work in Nairobi, they do business in Nairobi, and they make Nairobi a home for them. And I want to encourage many of us that when the time comes for political leadership, should not be going back to the village, but you should stay here and make Nairobi a better place. So as I said, I'm Nancy Wamboi. I stand with Usawa Party kwa Wote. Usawa Party kwa Wote is a party for all, from up to down. And we stand for the family to make sure that we make Nairobi a place where we can call our home for all of us. We stand for each and every Nairobians, and we want to say that it's a right for every Nairobian to eat. It's right for every Nairobian to have water. And therefore, I want to say, when I become the governor of Nairobi, I would want to make Nairobi a home for all of us who are here, who are born here, or those who grew up in our country, they came to Nairobi, they made Nairobi their home. I've been here for 30 years. Currently, I'm in business, and I've been in business for the last 15 years. And for the years I've been in business, I can understand as a business person. A businesswoman presents an employer, present a mother, and present a Nairobian. And when I stand here, I would want to say that I am presenting the whole group from the employer so that we can make Nairobi a home for all of us.
Thank you. And I take note that your time is up. Before we proceed, you can feel comfortable in adjusting your mics according to your heights, and we thank you. Kenneth Nyamwamu of the United Progressive Alliance Party, what are your key priority areas for county number 47?
Thank you. The first thing that I want to do is I want to make Nairobi business friendly. I feel we have a lot of hardworking business people in Nairobi, but sometimes we are never kind to the business. Instead of supporting our businesses, we fight our businesses. So my biggest priority is to make Nairobi business friendly. And one of the things that I want to do to make Nairobi business friendly is to slice all business licenses by 50%. I also, on my plan, I want to provide electricity and water in all the informal sectors. They actively contribute to the economy of Nairobi, and they should be able to get basic services like water and electricity and sewerage systems. The other thing I would like to do when I become governor is to create a county-wide app that will be used by all border borders to create efficiency so that the border borders can operate efficiently, and also to give them safety. We talk about this issue of border borders, but we dance around it, but nobody concretely put solutions in place. So my main aim will be to create a county-wide app, a county-wide, not country, county-wide app that would sort of like an Uber system kind of an app, so that the person, it caters for the safety of the border and the rider that they're carrying. The other thing is to improve service delivery to all sectors in Nairobi, and especially the informal sectors. We need to have a system in garbage collection. We need to have a system in fire department, the fire department that works. We need to promote our youth in sports and their talents. And also, my other thing is to create an efficient, affordable, and public system
your time is
that our people can use. Thank you.
Thank you. Your time is up. And you said something that I'd just like to pick up with you as we move into the second question. Mm-hmm. Do you know that in the last financial year, Nairobi's own source revenue was 10 billion shillings. This is against a target of 16.5 billion shillings.
Yes.
How do you seek to bridge the gap of 6 billion shillings if one of your priorities is to slash the business licenses fees by up to 50%?
So, the argument behind that is when people start businesses in Nairobi, number one, the average life of a business in Nairobi is 3.5 years, which is very sad. Two, when they start a business, they pay all their licenses up front because they have to. to pay licenses before they start the business. But after that, nobody is able to renew because the rent is very high, the cost of doing business is very high. So you get that a lot of people are not really paying their business licenses. So instead of charging them expensively, why don't we slice the licenses by half and increase the pool of the revenue reception?
How do you seek to bridge the gap of 6 billion? That is the question.
Well, you asked it in reference to me slicing the business licenses. So that's how I'm answering and saying, if we increase the pool of people, who are paying these licenses, then we'll have the 6 billion. But if we don't, then, we have money getting lost through the enforcement where they go and they harass our business.
Thank you so much. Your time is up.
Thank you so much. And I come to Herman. When you talk about finances, they are key because under the devolved system of governance, funds do follow functions. And according to the Commission of Revenue Allocation 2019, the county can easily collect 78 billion Kenya shillings potentially, but only manage 11 billion. I mean, this is a big loophole. How will you seal it?
So I think we need to reflect on how there are many revenue streams that do come to us in Nairobi County. It's a question of, is that 10 billion an actual figure? Or is the actual figure a lot higher and a lot is lost? So I think something we need to concentrate on is regulating the corruption that does take place. And this is why a huge part of my manifesto dictates how we should digitize the payments coming to Nairobi County Council. There should be no point where we're receiving cash for any payments because it's very difficult to track cash payments. Also, I spoke on how we need to have better revenue generation streams for Nairobi County. Business permits aren't the only way we can generate money as a county. Something that has frustrated me is that if you look at Kenya's parastatals, a lot of them have struggled to raise revenue for the government operations. And I feel that also if we tap into parastatals and we create new parastatals in Kenya, we can generate revenue. Like something I pushed for was creating the biggest call center in Africa in Kenya. And that's something that we can also provide jobs for a lot of Kenyans because the minimum wage in that call center would be about 20,000 per month. So I feel like we should concentrate on reducing corruption and regulating the operation of parastatals and bringing in new parastatals into Nairobi. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we move to you, Nancy Mwadime. You spoke very passionately about making Nairobi a home, and that was part of what you wanted to do if elected governor on the 9th of August. I want to understand from you how you seek to bridge the gap of how much money Nairobi generates vis-a-vis what it potentially can generate.
How to make Nairobi a better home. And the first thing we need to do is take care of the business people to make sure that they're able to do their business without any harassment. And especially, I'll give an example of the hawkers. The hawkers, they go in the evening to do the hawking business. So when I'm the governor, I'll make sure that the hawkers are not harassed. In the evening from 5 p.m., we'll have some roads closed and allow the hawkers to do their business without any harassment. On the other hand, we'll also take care of the business sector, like the industry. We shall have dialogue with the business owners, and we see how we can improve the business or how we can make their work easier. On the other hand, we'll also work together with the industry owners to see how we can engage or how we can put some of our unemployed people into work for those industries. And apart from that, I'm also going to make sure that there is water. Water distribution is taken care of, because when we have water, we can encourage the Nairobi people even to do the family farming or the balcony farming. So with that, we are able to get some food available.
Your time is up, but I'll add you 30 seconds just to come clear on something. You said you're going to work on making sure that hawkers are not harassed. And you know that some hawkers operate without the necessary requirements. Some dodge, the procedures that they ought to be going through to be able to operate a business lawfully within Nairobi. How are you seeking to make sure that they are not harassed, yet a big percentage of them operate without the licenses that are required, without paying any dues to the county. How are you planning to make this organized?
I do believe with dialogue, everything is possible. I'll have dialogue with hawkers, and we see how we can stay together in the city of Nairobi, how they can do their businesses and they make money, they support their families, and how we can also charge a little fee which is affordable for them.
Okay, thank you for your time. I come to you, Esther Waringa Thairo. On governance, it has underneath a lot of thematic areas. And the question of corruption comes up when you mention money in the city of Nairobi. And it seems endemic. What will be your approach?
Well, with corruption, I know it's an issue that is big. I'm looking at when I become a governor, I'll be in partnership with some bodies like DCI, EACC, where anybody who is employed, before they get the employment, they are vetted, and they should be people of integrity. I'm also looking at cutting down the loopholes of cartels. The cartels that are done that affect this city. One, we know that in the lands, Ministry of Land, land issue, it's an issue, especially when it comes to land that is allocated to the county. I would also look at the functions of what is happening, especially with the land in leasing, because most of the land's lease expires in 99 years, and we find that there are some places that they don't pay. They don't pay any lease because the leases were not renewed. So there are several things that I would look at in terms of closing those gaps of corruption and working towards making this city a city that is corruption-free.
Okay, I add you 30 seconds before my colleague comes in with the next question to the next candidate. And you have mentioned cartels. Seems this is a cliche. Who are they by definition?
Cartels are managed by people who are just those people we have elected, because they have mechanism of owning most of the businesses around. The local businesses are owned by people who are in power. So the cartels fall there. So if there is any tender or there is any garbage collection, you find that those companies are not owned by the local person. They are owned by people who are already in positions.
Your time is up. I come to Kenneth Nyamwamu, and this is very important because when we talk about finances, these are the taxes the Kenyan people pay, and they expect services, including not only Nairobi, but across the 47 devolved units in the country. Do you understand the regulations and the finance management in terms of managing the resources in Nairobi County?
The answer is yes, I do. So, if I may get you correctly, you're trying to ask me if we understand the way to manage finances?
Correct.
I know, I do, because I am a business owner, and I've run my business successfully for the last 2 years. So I understand how to manage finances, how to pay people on time, which the city of Nairobi needs to learn how to pay people on time and not be holding salaries for 3-6 months until people go to the streets. The city of Nairobi also needs to learn how to pay their bills on time. The other day I passed City Hall, and the whole City Hall didn't have electricity. So we need to get there so that we can pay our bills on time, pay our people on time, and ensure that revenue is collected in an efficient manner, a manner that's free of harassment from the people. In my administration, I am going to eliminate any form of the City Hall askaris arresting people in terms of people who are trying to eke a living. I think it's wrong to criminalize somebody trying to eke a living, whether they are saying on the street corner or not. We just need to get a place for them to do their business.
And your time is up. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Now we move to the next
topic that we wanted to interrogate you on. And at this particular point, we assume that now that you want to be the county top boss, you know what are the requirements under the Chapter 6 of the Constitution on leadership and integrity. Most of you, in your opening remarks, and even while responding to the questions we've asked you, have really talked very passionately about fighting corruption. I'd like to start with you, Esther. Just tell me a bit about the how you're going to approach the war against corruption in Nairobi County.
Well, first of all, I'll look at distribution of resources. People have to give a budget on how they're going to spend the money. I'm also going to look at the tender awarding. It should be something that should be open and transparent, where you gazette every project that is going to be undertaken by the county government, and communicate even through the social media. Also give a feedback on who has been awarded, how much the project is going to be, and at what duration are they expected to finish the job. Because you find that most projects that are given out, we spend so much money and yet the projects are never finished. So that is a big loophole on curbing down the corruption. So that is what I would look at in terms of that.
And your time is up. Thank you very much.
Okay. Haman Sin Grewal, I come to you. As a FINA party member, the question of corruption has been a hallmark in this city. And when we look at the single, for example, business permits, the deficit is 912,362,049 shillings, nearly a billion Kenya shillings. What's your approach in terms of addressing this deficit, which is only 64% of the required 100%?
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, in terms of corruption and also the business permits, I cannot stress the value of IT. Because IT allows us to track everything that we're required to. Whether it comes to movement of finance, whether it comes to business permits, we can use geo mapping using Google Maps, and we can track businesses that are currently operating in different areas based on traction and M-Pesa movement, and we can understand that there's a business operating there. But that comes down to investigation. Also, another point I wanted to bring in is if I'm dealing with corruption, I've seen a lot of people are stressed out by KRA investigators. Mm-hmm. Why are KRA investigators not also the investigators for corruption in Kenya? So I feel that as Nairobi governor, I will digitize a lot of operation in terms of tracking, investigation, and further I will bring in the investigative abilities of KRA into my office. Thank you.
Okay. How do you coordinate then with the Kenya Revenue Authority, which is the mandated national body, the taxman, yet you have a financial autonomy as a devolved unit in the event the people of Nairobi give you that mandate? Where is the striking of the balance between the KRA, the Kenya Revenue Authority, as you have mentioned, and the county finances in terms of the collection of the revenue?
Okay. So the question is based on bringing in KRA investigators in, right? So as a country, we're collaborative. We're one unit. Granted, we have devolution that did take place where we separated the powers of operation. We can still collaborate with different organizations. What we can do is simply have a recruiting process where we can have employees also be transferred from KRA to the Nairobi County to investigate corruption and operation of the state. So that's one of the ideas I had in mind. Also, we don't have to entirely transfer them. Something we can also do is simply borrow them occasionally to conduct certain investigations, to also have proper auditing of operation. So I feel like we have a very skilled workforce in Kenya, whether they're in KRA or they work as accountants in the private organizations. Through collaboration, we can bring together all these brilliant minds and solve the problems we're currently dealing with together as a nation. Thank you.
Mr. Nyamwamu.
Yes.
Corruption has been something that has tainted the image of Nairobi County, which many see as something that should be the city under the sun. That is how, ideally, that is the space that Nairobi should be occupying. But that is not the case, partially because of issues such as corruption. As you seek this mandate, what loopholes have you identified, and how do you seek to seal them?
First things first, I think we are not serious in our fight against corruption. That's how I feel. We have the EACC, we have the DCI, we have this body, that body, but still money gets lost. The solution is not to form another body. In fact, I agree. In fact, I would like for Wajakoya to be president so that we can hang every one of these people. Because we just dance around this issue, nobody gets held accountable. We have a gubernatorial candidate that has been cleared with fake papers, and we just dance around this issue. So how do we expect to fight corruption where we don't do anything about it? For me, the solution is to go the Wajakoya way. If you are corrupt, we send you to the gallows. Next man up. You are corrupt, go to the gallows. I think that's the only way we can deal with it.
You've talked about a case that is yet to be determined, but I'd let that go because that case is yet to be concluded.
Yeah, but we dance around these issues. See, that's the thing, that's the problem.
And I also don't see how that relates with the issue of
we just dance around
corruption.
these issues. The EBC or the IEBC said they don't have the mandate. Yet, they send me home because I had a foreign certificate. That guy in a commission that wrote for him his certificate, he couldn't look at my own certificate until he had seen my high school certificate. There is no correlation between a high school certificate and a graduate certificate. But he couldn't look at mine, yet we have a gubernatorial candidate who has been cleared by the same commission. So anyway, the issue I'm saying is we dance around this issue of corruption, but nobody wants to take affirmative action.
I just want to stay on that matter for a bit before we move. So you mean as governor you will be helpless just because institutions are not working? So you cannot do anything to fight corruption? That is what you're saying tonight?
No, that's not what I'm saying. As governor, I'll do my part.
What will you do? That was the question.
I will not appoint anybody in my government who has been implicated or who has a case pending or who has been implicated in a corruption scandal. If you don't do that, people are just going to go to court because the mantra is you are innocent until proven guilty, and then they just dance around that issue and that issue is not solved. So on my part, I will not appoint anybody who's tainted. I will only work with people with clean hands. Let the EACC dance until the day they decide to work.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ms. Nancy Wambui Mwadime, what then will be your approach in effectively sealing the loopholes of financial malfeasance in Nairobi County?
My approach is that when I get
You can adjust the microphone at your place of comfort. Feel free. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, the approach I want to give is that in the county government management, I am going to work with every place in Nairobi. Like in Nairobi, we have the Somalis, we have the Indians, we have even the white people who are citizens of Kenya, and they are also in Nairobi. So in my county government, I'm going to include everyone in the management so that we're able to seal the loophole even whereby corruption come through. Because corruption cases, it's done by not one person, but two people who come together and agree. So when you put every lace in the management, we are able not to agree on the long things, especially the corruption. And as I would want to say is that myself, I'm not corrupt, and therefore anyone who will work under me.
Your time is up. And I add you 30 seconds, but on clarity basis, Ms. Nancy Mwadime, when you talk about the ethnicities, in this case appreciating the cocktail nature of this county, which is a reflection of the country entirely, is the problem inclusion or governance in your view in addressing the question I posed?
When I include everybody in the management, I believe that we are able to coordinate, even in the area of the finances. We are getting or the revenue coming in the county government.
Is it about the color of your skin or about your character?
No,
the
it's
issue
not about
of corruption.
the color.
So why talk about race? Why talk about including all the people in your management?
It's not about the race. It's saying that Nairobi, we all of us, we are Nairobians, Indians, white people. Like, I think if I'm not wrong, I'm not seeing white people in the county government, and we have them as citizens. So also what I'm trying to say that in my government, I'll have a good number of white people, a good number of Indians, a good number of Somalis, and all of us together.
Is their absence the reason why we have huge corruption cases at the Kenya's capital? The absence of certain races in the management of the county, the reason why corruption still exists in Nairobi?
I believe the corruption still exists because when you put the same people of same, then they are able to agree together and agree that they can do ABC and they're able to accomplish. But when...
Thank you for your time. And when we get back from this break, the debate continues, and we thank you for your time and responding to the questions and also the thematic areas that are yet to be exhausted. And we'll continue after the break. The debate continues.
Start with one dream, one goal, one deposit, and one transaction. Pamoja, let's make it happen. So don't.
Despite being visually impaired, he is a jack of all trades. It is our quest to find answers on how to take care of children with special needs and those with disability. You do not need to see musical notes to understand music, but rather to have your soul feel the vibe.
Actually, for us to make a wheelchair, we have to take measurements of the user.
After doing my assessment, I get to know the parent. I get to know the heaviness she's carrying.
Disability comes at different stages of life.
How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la Siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga.
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. The next set of millionaires are farmers, as we know agriculture has been and still is the backbone of our economy. As we traverse the different counties to meet different farmers, we ensure to get the story of how they started farming and even how they continue to penetrate the market and overcome the challenges.
Hapa, the reason why nilieka goose na si ducks. Goose, they are very easy to maintain.
A lot of farmers keep on calling, inquiring whether you're supposed to raise some seeds in the nursery or you're supposed to do them directly in the field.
The greenhouse helps us control the temperature because the temperature needs to be between 28 to 32 degrees.
Walk this journey with us every Sunday at 6:30 p.m. It's no secret, construction ain't cheap. But how do we make it affordable? Different individuals are finding ways of cutting down cost by use of pre-stressed slabs other than reinforced concrete, recycling plastics to make pavers.
The brick is stronger, it's cheaper, and it's lighter.
And recycling wastewater in your household.
What happens to my waste from the washroom, the solid waste? All that can break down.
Those are just but a few. Every Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. we talk construction.
There's no alpha without an omega. There's no lead without any followers. No man is an island. We need each other. We need this conference.
We say it, we do it, we act it.
Kama una mpenzi wako, kila siku kama walivyosema, kila siku maishi mapenzi.
We don't toe the line, we set the standard. We don't eat the grass, we lead the pack.
As an alpha male, you're also a leader. Not to just women, friends and family, but to everyone else you've never met before.
We are the beauty, the spice and the brains. The men's conference where men become alpha males.
And you can catch us every Wednesday at 10 p.m. This is The Grind. Only those who will risk going too far can possibly find out how far one can go. T.S. Eliot.
So I decided, let me just take this up, put the teaching on hold first. Let me try see where this can go.
I mean, the opportunities are a lot. But is that all you need? Oh wait, there's more. This seems a little too much. Let's slow it down.
You do this is something you do out of passion.
Join me, Violet Njoki, as I navigate through the maze of the increasingly dynamic business environment and quiet down the noises. As I help you flourish in business, every Monday at 7:30.
With Esther Waringa Thairo, who is an independent candidate seeking the top job in the county. We also have Haman Sen Growell, who is a member of the Safina Party. We also have Kenneth Nyamwamo, who is a member of the United Progressive Alliance Party, and Nancy Wamboi Mwadime.
All right, we'd also wish to remind you that we extended invitations to all the 9 candidates who are vying for the Nairobi top seat. And of course, we have with us 4 of them for the first debate lined up for the night. Remember, later on, we'll be taking you through the second debate also, as we just lay it all bare. Who carries the vision for Nairobi County? Who among the ladies and gentlemen before us tonight has what it takes to become the next governor? But we just want to move on with this debate. And right about now, we want to look at the governance of the city. And I'll just come to you, Mr. Nyamwamu. The extension of deed of transfer of functions that was signed between the Nairobi City County and the national government elapses on the 24th of August, of course preceded by a 3-month extension period to tackle what is called the transition. If elected governor, how do you plan on handling this transition? And also, how do you seek to sustain the relationship between the national government and the county government, and which areas will you be doing that on?
Is this in relation to the NMS?
Yes.
First of all, we shouldn't be having NMS running Nairobi County to begin with. That's not how our democracy was set up. We're supposed to be ruled, it's supposed to be by the people. It's the people supposed to decide, they elect somebody and that person runs, they give the person the mandate to run the county. Now, we have NMS, and my hope is when I get in, we'll have a transition for them to, we'll have a laid down transition for them to exit and let the Nairobi County be run by the elected officials. It had a lot to do with the previous governor, but now when we get in, we are making sure that the NMS will hand over the function to the county government so that it's run by the duly elected officials. That's how our democracy set up, and that's how we are going
Your
to
time
work.
is up, but I'll add you 30 seconds. Nairobi is Kenya's capital.
Yes.
And also it is like the headquarter.
Yes.
Do you want to tell me it's not important to have a relationship between these two levels of government, the national government and the county government, considering the fact that it is the capital of the entire country?
The county has its own, they have their own responsibilities. Why should Nairobi be partly run by the NMS while Kisumu, which is also another county, is fully run by a governor? I don't think that's fair. Our mandate dictates that you let the county be ran by the person that's been duly elected. I understand why the NMS was there, but that's not how our democracy is set up. Why should Nairobi be chosen to be run by NMS and not Migori, for example?
Okay, your time is up. Herman Grewal, the law under Article 187 anticipates cooperation between the national government and the county government. And we have spoken about the NMS and how it came about. Would you have done what the ex-governor did in handing over 4 key functions to the national government?
Well, if you look at the history of NMS and why it was created, first of all, I would like to thank His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta for pushing for the creation of NMS, because he saw that Nairobi was in a state of chaos. And it was the sort of emergency response we needed. I'm sure all of you can agree, if you look at the success of NMS, it's something that we can be proud of. NMS has accomplished what the governor is supposed to accomplish. And NMS was a substitute for the governor, meaning that we need to move back into our normal state of operation. And we had the separation of powers so that we can allow elected leaders for certain areas be in charge of those areas. If we elect someone for a county, it would not be fair, just, or constitutional to have the president be running that county entirely. There must be collaboration, and we will transition in a peaceful and positive way.
Okay, your time is up, but I add you 30 seconds for clarity. And there seems to be no response to my question, and I need clarity on this. If accorded the mandate by the people of Nairobi County, would you have done what the former governor did at State House in February 2020?
I feel that given the situation we were in at the time, it did make sense, but it did happen because of the governor's actions. So I feel that if I'm responsible as the governor, I wouldn't allow us to reach that state. But if we are in that state, we must be responsible as leaders and say, I've made a mistake. I'm not delivering as a leader. And take a step back so that our country can prosper. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Ms. Nancy Mwadime, how do you plan on sustaining the relationship between the two levels of government, considering the fact that you're vying on an Usawa kwa wote party ticket, assuming the government is taken over by somebody a party that is not in your political camp? What will you do and how will you sustain this relationship?
I'll be able to maintain the relationship because the two bodies, the national government and county government, we need one another, and each body has its own role to play. The national government, the county government, because even some of the assignments which are done by the county government work in relation with the national government. So what I would say is that I'll maintain the relationship, and where necessary, we shall work together. And at times, for example, with NMS, I would say that the county government, with a good leader, we have all what we need in the county government. We have workers from top, from the engineers to the accountant to the officers. So what I would say that with good leadership, the county government can be able to manage.
Thank you. Your time is up.
Okay. Esther Waring, I come to you. And owing to the importance of the close cooperation needed between the national government and the counties, because the understanding is that The two levels of government are meant to provide services for the people of the Republic of Kenya who hold the sovereignty under Article 1 of the Constitution. What will be your approach between the relationship between State House and City Hall?
Well, a leadership of a nation, even though it has different bodies, is still one, because the objective is for the interest of the people who have the sovereign power. So I see that in partnership and consultation, we can really work, the county government and the State House, because everything that is done, the functions could be different because of devolution, but it is workable with partnership. Let me give an example. The county government holds the EAC level of education, but that does not stop a county governor to be in partnership with the national government to build a school. So I find that it's more of a consultation and partnership over leadership, and that will work.
I add you 30 seconds, and clearly then tell me, the education docket is budgeted for 520 billion, lion's share of the country's financial year. There are some roles which are devolved, others aren't. How do you draw that very thin line as to what you will accomplish in terms of education?
You see, if we have plans that involves the people, the partnership to be also drilled down to the people, the NGOs, and even stakeholders. It is possible to even be able to meet the target of what you're doing. It's more of partnership that will work, and involving the people also to be partners, stakeholders.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right, so we want to move this forward to the issue of living and working conditions for the residents of Nairobi. Mr. Nyamwamu, I see you have an issue you want to raise.
Yes.
I'll give you 30 seconds to address that.
I just want to talk about this NMS county government thing. NMS is being headed by a military guy. Now, the government should act as an oversight it should be the oversight role in terms of overseeing what the counties are doing. But devolution was there to bring services closer to the people, and that's why we have devolution. So when we bring the government to come and actually get involved in the devolution functions, we are treading a very dangerous line. When Hilton started, he started very nicely. He delivered services to the people. Over time, it has been shown, military rule takes over and they suppress democracy.
Your time is up, but taking you back to when this happened on the 25th of February 2020, vying for this position, I want to believe you understand where the county was and the state at which it was being operated at that time. What would you have done different? What would you have done different aside from just signing that deed of transfer of functions?
Well, first of all, it starts from the governor that was elected and the deputy governor that's seeking a gubernatorial position right now, who was part of that system, and the senator who was supposed to be overseeing. They all failed. So then the government has to be like, Nairobi's in a mess. We need to take over Nairobi or Nairobi will be in a mess. But that's not how our democracy was set up.
How would you have cleaned that mess, Mr. Nyamwamu?
Hey, collect garbage. The garbage was terrible. That was the function of the governor. Give electricity, provide electricity in the informal sectors. Get rid of the cartels. That's what the governor was supposed to do. And his deputy governor and the senator was supposed to oversee that function. All three failed. That's why the government stepped in. But all in all, what I'm trying to say, the basic framework of our democracy is not set that way. We set a very dangerous precedent if we continue this path.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Nyamwamu. And just an understanding in terms of the specificity, you have raised a very important and a pertinent question as to garbage
in
the city.
Yes.
Do you understand Nairobi County?
Yes, I do. I played in this city. I live in this city.
In terms of the tons of garbage,
Yes.
how much does the city generate?
First of all, Nairobi doesn't even have a system to collect the garbage. We have just young little boys that we use and we pay them very little money to collect garbage. Nairobi needs to set up a garbage collection system that starts from collecting garbage from the homes all the way to how the garbage is disposed. We don't have that system. We need to set that system up so that we can have a systematic way of collecting garbage in the county. Once that system is in place, then you'll not see garbage in the city. But we cannot have self-help groups, young boys collecting garbage in an unsanitary manner, and we call that garbage collection. We need to have a system set in place with the county government, and that's what I'll do when I become governor.
Mr. Herman Growell, Nairobi County generates about 2,500 tons of garbage in a day. Out of this, only 1,800 is collected and transported. About 700 tons cannot be accounted for, and you and I can guess where that ends up. If elected governor, how do you seek to fix this problem?
Okay. So this mostly comes to how are we managing resources. So resources would be goods and even waste. So when we talk of goods, are we managing a system that allows for the collection and recycling of the waste? Secondly, we look at the waste generated. How is it ending up in the dump sites, for example? Is all of it ended up in the dump sites? So it's simply about now tracking how much garbage generated from certain areas, how much needs to be handled, what is the success rate of the systems we have put in place. Because when I was reflecting on garbage, it was one of the major aspects of my manifesto, because to work in any place, whether it's an office or in a county, you shouldn't have garbage everywhere, you shouldn't have sewages open. Because I've also walked through several slums in Nairobi, and I don't understand how we have the funding for something simple such as manual labor, which is minimum wage, which is all that's required to collect garbage in certain areas, and then now move it to a recycling plant.
Thank you so much.
That's why I spoke on how we need to partner. So even with recycling plants, we can export shredded plastic to other countries.
Your time is up, Mr. Growell. Your time is up.
Okay. Right. Thanks.
Ms. Nancy Wambui Mwadime, the issue you have talked about is very important. What's your easy, immediate fix to garbage problem in the city?
About the garbage issue, one thing I want to say that people have complained that at times leaders give manifesto and they are not able to fulfill what they have said. Especially the issue of the garbage. I need to get to that office and sit with the other parties and we see the way forward on how to handle the issue, because it's a big problem at hand.
Which is the way forward?
As I've said, there are some issues one would need to get to that office and sit and look all around and see how to solve. And the garbage is one of the issue one would need to go and get to the office and sit with the bodies related and see the way forward.
And how does that way forward formula look like? Because the people of Nairobi watching this debate want clarity to the questions that we are asking you. What's the approach? How?
I start by saying that we need first to start by educating our people. Because the issue of garbage starts by dropping it everywhere. So we need first to have the feeling that you cannot go dropping a peel of a banana everywhere.
Your time is up, Ms. Mwadime, but just 30 seconds for some clarity on something you said. You want to get to that house, sit down with some people to get solutions. The people of Nairobi want somebody, a leader who already has solutions. What level of assurance can you give residents who are watching you tonight that you have the solutions to the problems that they are facing in Kenya's capital?
I have solution for many issues facing the Nairobians.
Is garbage one of them?
Garbage is one of them.
So how do you sort to fix the challenges we are facing with the garbage issue in the city?
We can go to the old, now we are calling it county government. Years back, we called it city council. By then, we had lorries, which used to go around collecting the garbage. And there was a plant area where the garbage used to be taken, and from there it was managed. So what I'm trying to say is that we can get back to the Nairobi, which was there some years back, and the county government provide those services to the citizen, correcting the garbage and knowing where the garbage should go and knowing how the garbage will be managed.
Thank you. Esther Waringa, 30% of garbage in the city is disposed of by a private company. This is a lion's share, and it's clearly a private affair. Yet the county is supposed to be offering services to the people. It's public dominated. How will you turn this around?
You see, garbage looked in a more positive way. It's money generating. If you look at it that way, then you'll have a solution on how you can tap from garbage collection into the recycling and generate some money. So what I would really do is to have the county government deal with the garbage disposals, where the garbage installation, collection bins are placed in every estate, in every slum area, on the streets. And then that garbage collection is done by the city government, and we build some collection dumping sites in ward level, and then after that we are able to partner with companies that do recycling, and then we'll ask them that since we have brought the garbage to you, to the dumping site, then we create employment. We ask them to employ people who will sort that garbage out, and then after that, whatever profit they make,
your time is up, Ms.
then it's able to, we ask them to give us a 30%.
Your time is up, but let me add you 30 seconds to be clear on that.
Yes.
When you say that you will procure companies, do you appreciate the importance of public participation under the current constitution? And what will be the way of bringing those companies on board since they are private?
We have recycling companies. If we partner with them, and those are the things that they need, the recycling, the garbage stuff that they can recycle. So I find it's easier because when you partner with them, you have made it easier. You've brought the garbage to a dumping site that is available for them to be able to collect it. That's how I would look at it.
Okay.
Yes.
And your time is up. Thank you.
All right, we want to move to the next section, but before we do, Mr. Nyamwamu, earlier you had said that you play in this city, you've lived in this city. I just want to seek a clarification looking at what you've done and who you are. You left the country in 2001?
Yes.
To go to the United States?
Yes.
You're a certified nurse in the United States?
Yes.
You've attained 3 of your major degrees from abroad?
Yes, I did.
Earlier, in early basic education, you studied in a county outside Nairobi, Siaya.
Yes.
How are you assuring the residents of Nairobi that you're part and parcel of them, you understand their issues, you have solutions, you know what they're going through, you're going to fix it if they elect you governor?
Well, I've been
articulating... 90 seconds.
I've been articulating these issues. I've given a way forward in terms of garbage collection. I've given a way forward in terms of making Nairobi business friendly. I think the issue you're asking, you've been outside the country, how are you going to relate with Nairobians? And my answer is this: I'm still a Kenyan, and problems that face the cities are universal. If I'm correct, our president learnt abroad, incoming president Raila Odinga learnt abroad. A lot of people who are in leadership in this country learnt abroad, but they still actively participating in leadership roles in this country. So living abroad does not disqualify you from understanding and articulating the issues or solving problems. One of the things that has been put here that's successful is this expressway. This is a foreign concept that was borrowed from abroad, but it's here and it's working. So going abroad does not stop me.
Thank you so much. Thank you for
from
that
articulating the issues.
Your time is up. Now let's move to the next section of this conversation that touches on the living and working conditions of residents of Nairobi. The key issue has been housing. And in this city, 9.3% of Nairobians, only 9.3% own homes. The others are renting units in different places. And also, it is a city that, according to statistics by the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, 80% of the people who live in informal settlements across the country live in Nairobi. There's a huge housing crisis in this capital. Esther, I'll begin with you. If elected governor, how will you seek the housing crisis in Kenya's capital?
Well, I would start with the housing crisis with the most affected areas, like the slum areas. And I would partner with the landlords who will sit down with the consultation and find out how we can be able to improve what is already there. For example, if I take Kibera slums, those are settlements where there are landlords who are owning those small houses. But if I came in as a governor and had a partnership with them where we improve the housing, we improve the condition that people live in there, and I'll come with support, like give money so that we can improve, and yet the people staying there will not pay a higher cost, but they will still remain paying that because I've already chipped in some money to improve their living conditions. That's how I would tackle it. Then I would partner with the investors to build affordable housing.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Your time is up.
Allow me, Esther, to add you 30 seconds, because you have mentioned Kibera, which is a constituency in Nairobi County. And as per the Kenyan National Bureau of Statistics in 2019 census, this is a region or part of Nairobi which has a population density of 712 times what ought to have been 68,000 people per square kilometer. That's a homework, isn't it? That's a steep slope for you. How will you operationalize decongestion of informal settlements, which account for 80% of Nairobi's population, and Kibera being an example that you have fronted?
Well, I wouldn't look at moving these people. I know there is cheap housing, affordable housing that was built for them, high-rise being one of them, but they never moved in there. They still came back to their own settlement. So what I would look at is improving, not really moving them away, because they are used to that place, they are comfortable in that place, but how best can I improve their living standard?
And your time is up.
That's what I would focus on.
Asante, thank you. Haman,
yes,
I come to you. Housing is a national government function, and therefore, again, another cooperation is needed between the county government and the national government. We already are falling short of the targeted 250,000 household units to be delivered. We are doing it at 50,000 at the moment. This rate needs to be speeded up by 3 times the current number. What's your cooperation with the national government if elected governor, and how will you address the problem of housing congestion in the city?
Okay. So the question is based on supply being too low and demand being too high. Every businessman knows that this is a huge opportunity, right? So if you look at the structure of the country, you've got your upper class, middle class, and lower income groups, and each needs a different solution for housing, because you wouldn't expect someone that's earning over 2 million shillings per month to be provided with the same solution as a lower class person. So what we do have is an opportunity for us to now use technology to even like 3D print cheap housing for people living in slums and have a payment structured plan where they can pay back. Because if you study the banking history of Kenya, you see that it's becoming difficult for people to now mortgage housing. So that's something we should reflect on. Further, for the middle class and upper class, we must encourage investment, because again, this is an opportunity. If I give you a loan to build apartments, I now have the opportunity to earn from interest, and we've succeeded in building apartments for
Your
people
time is
in
up,
Nairobi.
but I add you 30 seconds. Proceed.
Okay. And what I've also studied is, so aside from the whole aspect of this being a business opportunity for us in terms of providing housing to low income, middle income, and upper class people for housing, we also need to reflect on how there are a lot of unemployed people in Nairobi. So I've studied all the manifestos for different candidates, and someone like Wajakoya has spoken of making Isiolo the capital of Kenya. I understood the logic, But this is also something that can be applied here. Because there's too much demand in Nairobi, what if we set up organizations in other counties where people can earn and also find housing? So I think that's something we should also encourage to decongest
Thank you.
Nairobi.
Thank you so much, Mr. Grawal. Now we come to you, Mr. Nyamoamu. How do you seek to fix the housing crisis in the capital under your administration, if elected?
So for me, I think it's many factors, but the biggest factor is the economic factor. A lot of people opt to go to the informal sectors because they can't afford whatever is available. For example, in Kileleshwa, there's a lot of apartment units that are available for rent, but they are unaffordable because people don't have the disposable income to go and rent those apartments. So my solution would be, one, to encourage investors to invest in these areas or areas proximity to the slum areas so that these people can get places they can go to and work. That's number one. So instead of having an industrial area or industries in industrial area, let's have industries in every constituency so that, people from Kibra they don't have to walk to industrial area, they can go find jobs nearby. So let's create investment in those areas. Two.
Your time is up, Kenneth, but proceed, 30 seconds.
Okay, two, let's decentralize Nairobi. Let's get other functions in other areas. The reason why people come here is they come to look for employment here. So let's decentralize other key functions from Nairobi to other areas. We've started doing that. Let's do more of that so that, you don't have to go live to Nairobi to earn a living. You can go to Mombasa, Kisumu, wherever, where even the cost of living is low. And it will bring down the cost of living in Nairobi because a lot of people will move out of Nairobi.
Thank you.
That's how I look at it.
Thank you so much. I come to you, Nancy Wamboi Mwadime of the Usawa kwa Wote Party. What's your understanding of the laws that regard planning in the city, and how would you differentiate between residential and commercial areas for purposes of planning and to answer the question of housing?
Before I go to planning...
You can just move closer
yes, your microphone. Yes.
Before I go to planning, I would want to deal with the housing issue, which is an issue which we need to handle. On the issue of housing, some years back, we used to have city council houses, or county government is supposed to be developing homes and give to the Nairobi people. So I would want to go back to that and get the county department on the housing to develop some houses. Number two, I would want to network with real estate developers. I am in real estate industry, and I have seen the gap. We have the developers who are willing to develop the homes, and we also have the Nairobi people, especially who have on the circles and pension. They want homes, but there is a gap in between because the developers, the circle managers, they tell developer they want a ready home, yet they have money lying in the bank.
Your time is up, but 30 seconds. When you talk about the real estate industry where you are a subscriber to, do you have an understanding of the complaints lodged in a court of law against you by your employers of mistreatment and lack of pay?
I do have, because when you are a developer and the economy is affected, our work is affected. And most of the complaints we have is that we are not finishing the houses. But the problem is not really the developer 100%. It goes all the way to the economy. Because when we don't have an atmosphere for the business, as a developer, you start your development, and because of the atmosphere, you are not able to receive the buyers for the homes, and you are not able to complete your development. But in this case, what I'm trying to say is that we can have a network between a developer and a circle, whereby the developer will develop homes for a particular circle using the same fund lying in the bank. And in this case, the Nairobi citizen will pay only 10 to 15,000 to own a house within 10
Ms.
to
Mwadime,
25
your
years.
time is up.
Thank you.
And at this point, we also extended an opportunity to the residents of Nairobi to get a chance to ask questions. And we just want to get some of them so that our candidates can be able to respond.
My name is Masi Masila Achola, an executive program leader with the Maxwell Leadership Team, and also serving in the Kenya Daima Steering Committee. My question to the Nairobi gubernatorial candidates is, if elected to office, could you share with the residents of Nairobi what can we expect from you in your first 100 days in office?
Nairobi County collects billions in taxes. What mechanism are they going to put in place to ensure that Nairobi County's billions do not end up in the pockets of a few corrupt leaders?
Nairobi's public transit system is a mess. How will your administration fix the issue of commuting through town and the traffic jams we experience on our roads daily?
Majina ni Nicholas Paul. Swali langu kwa waheshimiwa wanaokusudia kuwa gavana wa Nairobi. Ni mpango ipi mlioweka kuhakikisha ya kwamba wafanyabiashara wadogo wadogo hawadhulumiwi na mabwenyenye humu mjini?
My name is Samuel Matara. I work and stay in Nairobi. And I have a question to all the Nairobi gubernatorial aspirants. Now, if you walk along the streets of Nairobi, the marketplaces of Nairobi, and also the residential places, you will encounter mounds of garbage strewn all over. And this is despite the previous governors promising that they will make sure that this city becomes clean. How are you going to ensure that this city becomes clean like the way it used to be?
Question number 1. NMS inatoa stage from CBD inapeleka outside CBD, and also they are banning border from CBD. Is it right on that way?
And those are the residents of Nairobi who sampled messages that we did play here, and we did engage them because they are very key and important since they hold the key to City Hall and in exercising Article 1 of the Constitution, since the sovereignty of power lies with them as enshrined and envisioned in Article 1 of the Constitution 2010. I begin with you, Esther Waringa. Vast array of topics from taxes, corruption, malfeasance, small businesses and the friendly environment they want, to planning. What's your response to what some of the sampled messages here had conveyed?
First of all, if I heard you well, you've talked about corruption. And I did mention that I'll set systems where in employment and people are vetted, because leadership is key. If you employ people who are corrupted, then they'll mess the system. The other thing is closing the gap of any cartels that takes place. If I heard you well, again, you've talked about, if you can say
small businesses?
Sorry?
Small businesses and friendly environment that they are seeking.
Yeah, small businesses are very critical because they have a high percentage of employment. I would look at boosting them after COVID, post-COVID. The businesses were affected. So I would form circles that I'll boost money in those circles, and then they would get loans that they pay with minimum interest.
And your time is up.
They build up.
Coming to you, Mr. Grawal Singh, we had tackled the issue of corruption, but I want you to also speak to some issues that have been raised there. What will you do within your first 100 days? And also, what is your plan to improve the welfare and status of those who are running small and medium enterprises within the capital?
Okay. So I think the whole question of what are you going to do in your first 100 days is a very generic question. As a governor, it's not about just picking one goal and focusing on it. I feel it should be an expansive goal, and it's all outlined in my manifesto. What I want to do primarily in my first 100 days, if I must state in my first 100 days, is to clean up Nairobi. Because a lot of people in Nairobi are not happy whether it's in terms of operation or the cleanliness, it does have an impact on the psychology of a lot of people. So I feel cleaning the area in Nairobi is something of paramount importance in my first 100 days. Moving on to SMEs. My running mate is named Michael Kimwele. He works for KCB Bank. He's in the department for SME loans. So there's actually a structured plan we have on how to help SMEs access funding. Because if you look at the history of a lot of countries, how do you stop, for example, the son of an askari being an askari? How do you help the son of a mechanic finally be able to buy a car? It's through providing them with funding.
Mr. Grewal, but I add you 30 seconds to proceed.
Okay, thank you. It's through providing people with funding to allow them to break out of their environment. If, for example, I've never received over 30,000 in my whole life, how am I going to escape the poverty cycle? It's through having a structured plan. And even we have a system where we'll guide a lot of people in Nairobi how to start a business, how to run a business. And if your plan makes sense, we'll help you get funding for your project. And we also have some sort of mentoring system. So as you're operating, as you're growing your business, you'll still be monitored, supervised. And we work as sort of a team, as a family, so we can help each and every person in Nairobi grow. Thank you.
All right, the same set of questions will apply to you, Ms. Nancy Mwadime. Within 100 days, in case you're elected, what will you prioritize? And also as you do that, you also talk on what you plan to do to improve the status and welfare of those running small businesses within Nairobi. You have 1 minute.
So the first 100 days, I'll deal with the employment. We have kept on talking about employment on youth, but around this time we have unemployment, even from age gap between 30 and 40 and even 50. And with this group, I would provide training, free training, and when they are done with the training, we provide them with tools. For example, if you are trained as a mechanic, we release you with tools for being a mechanic. If you train as a trailer, we release you with a trailing machine. For the youth, I would encourage a good number of the youth to further their studies. When they go, the county government under my management will pay their school fees abroad. When they go out there, they'll get visa to further their education. And we'll take care of the fees and accommodation. Okay. But while they are there, they'll be able to work. And
your time is up, but why abroad? Why not within the borders of this country? Don't we have what it takes to do that?
I was to come to that, but I'm saying I'll encourage a number, because when I encourage a number of them, I'll kill two birds. One, they'll get employment. The second, they'll be able to work for a few hours. And those who are wise, they'll work and send money back home and they support their parent. And for the local youth, I'll also get them to workshop and training. And I'll do the same as for the age gap between 30 and 40. I'll give them tools to start small businesses.
Okay, Ms. Nancy Mwadime, your time is up of the Usawa kwa Wote Party. Mr. Kenneth Nyamwamu, how would you respond to the sample questions from the people of Nairobi County?
So first things first, let's make Nairobi business friendly. Let's invite international investors. Let's promote local investors. Let's not criminalize people who are making a living. If we bring international investors and have them in every constituency, people will have jobs, and that will improve our lives of living. Let's reduce our business licenses by 50%, so that whatever businesses we have, they are not, the cost of doing business is a little lower, and they are able to do business effectively in Nairobi. And the other thing is, especially the issue of garbage, let's set up a garbage collection system where we have days where and let the city council buy trucks. If they are not able to buy trucks, let them lease those trucks. Let them lease from companies, partner with companies to bring trucks to collect, to have collection days, and take them to collection centers.
Your time is up, Mr. Nyamwamu.
Can I have a little bit so I finish?
Proceed, 30 seconds added, granted.
So let's get these people these young boys who are picking up garbage. Let's train them. empower them, show them the sanitary way to collect garbage, so that when the system is there, these boys can be incorporated in the county, and then the garbage can be taken to the collection centers. The other thing is when I'm governor, I'm going to fight with KEMSA. KEMSA is diverting medication from county hospitals.
Your time is up, Mr. Kenneth Nyamwamu. That is another government agency which is national. We appreciate is the source point of pharmaceuticals to the counties, and that is a topic we can discuss another day.
All right, so there's a question that was also asked. I deliberately left it because this is what actually ushers us into the next section. And we're going to be looking into your vision for the transport sector in Nairobi County. One of the residents of Nairobi County is concerned actually about the traffic jams that we witness each and every day if you live in the capital. Esther, what is your plan to end the perennial traffic jam menace if elected?
Thank you so much. About transport, I would say that if we have proper and efficient transport system that will work, it's good. If I'm elected, I would think of having to refurbish trains, have rails, train bringing people to town. That would decongest the traffic. I'd also have to have a consultation with the Matatu people and see how best we can have the public transport organized. I would also look at having designated lanes on the road where any buses or a car that has more than 3 people can use that lane so that it's more faster to have them.
Your time is up, but are those, I'll add you 30 seconds. Are those not efforts that have been tried before? We've seen that in the capital already. Is there anything that you offer as an alternative for the residents of Nairobi?
If you can ask the question again.
I just want to inform you that those are things that the previous administrations have tried, using trains and also consultations with those who are operating in the public service sector. And of course, is there something that you plan to do that will be different to fix the perennial problem of traffic jams?
It's to encourage people to do carpooling if they are going the same direction. And if we had institutions like schools that are properly equipped and people take their kids to school where they stay, it's much better than crossing across to take a child to Nairobi Primary School when they live in Dadora. So I would reinforce that method of having the schools at their ward levels so that we can ease the congestion of traffic.
Your time is up. Esther Waringa, Independent Party. Haman Grewal, what's your approach to traffic snarl-up and the menace in the city?
Okay. So transport is a fairly complex issue. I'll try to speak on it in 1 minute, but generally it cannot be resolved in this much time. Once again, we break it down. We have 3 classes of people. We have the lower, middle, and upper class individuals, and each desire a different level of transport solutions. What often happens is, through my research, is I found when international guests come to Nairobi, how many of them are comfortable using a system such as matatus? How many of them understand how matatus work? It's not a large percentage. So I reflected on it. I came up with 3 solutions. I hope I have the time to touch on them. Number 1. The solution to traffic is not creating more roads. Because if we look at the history of Kenya, look at Thika Highway, for example, that was the more road solution. What we need is, because of the expanding population in Nairobi, we need to have structured mass transport systems that are of quality, that would fairly reduce transport. If I had a solution for me to come from Westlands to Karen, for example, that's quality public transport, I would use that.
Your time is up, but I add you 30 seconds. Proceed.
All right. I would use that. So we need to have quality mass transport. Something like bringing in double-decker buses into Nairobi would reduce the cost of transport even for the government, for individuals, and achieve the same thing. We can digitize the operation of matatus. Someone with a smartphone, the driver, I can track his phone. And as a user, I can see how far my matatu is and how long it will take. I link my account with that matatu, and then we can also have promotions for students. And lastly, we can also have a digital carpooling system where if I have a saloon car, for example, other people coming to Karen can simply share the cost of transport with me. And now this touches on the different classes we have, that's lower, middle, and upper class.
Your time's up.
All right, we move to you, Nancy Mwadime. Just your strategy of solving the traffic jams in Nairobi County.
Before I would think of solving the issue of the transport, I would start by having everyone in Nairobi be able to access the transport, especially the people with special need. I would want us to introduce buses which are accessible to the person with a wheelchair. He can just driving and lifted to the bus and stay in the wheelchair, and when he get to his destination, just is walk out, so that we can also protect their dignity. About the issue of the traffic jam, this is something which has always been discussed again and again. And at times I look at it, the people who discuss are not even the people who are using public transport. Because when you put the bus stage so far from town, then we expect people to walk that distance. I find that very unfair. For me, I would say, I would want to come up with a solution before I get the stage out.
Okay.
But,
your
but
time
before
is
I
up.
get to that...
Your time is up. Okay, I add you 30 seconds, but again, clarity.
So before I get to the solution, I would advise that we have buses whereby they come across. For example, if the buses are coming from Global, they come closing over to the other side. We have designated road whereby the traffic, the vehicles will come and close to the other side without saying that the bus stop or the stage will be at Global, and then people have to walk all the way to town.
All right, and just to come to you, Mr. Nyamwamu, as well on the same issue of the perennial traffic jams in this country's capital, what is your solution?
So first, let's expand the use of BRTs in our city, number one. Number two, let's introduce shifts, working shifts. Let people not come at the same time and leave at the same time. Services that don't need people to come to start work at 8, they can have shifts from maybe 11 to, I don't know, add 8 hours to that. But the concept is to have people come to work at different shifts. In essence, there was something that was talked about in 2013 about introducing Nairobi into a 24-hour economy. Let's introduce that 24-hour economy where we can have shifts and people come at this time, or that time. Another thing we can do about congestion is to have car holidays, days where, we don't allow private cars or cars of particular whatever to come into the city. Let everybody use the BRTs or whatever public transportation is available to come to the city.
Thank you.
That will help with decongestion.
Your time is up. And I start with Esther Waring on podium number 1. Your closing remarks, 30 seconds, and kindly adhere to the time.
I would say that the national government funds distribution to be considered because the county government has more of the functions, yet not enough money to fulfill those functions. And the other thing is that I would say is that I've lost my mind.
Okay, and your time is up.
So much. That is all I would say, that in partnership with the national government and the county government would really bring a smooth running of this city.
Your time is up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Haman Grawal?
Okay. Closing remarks are normally a lot longer, but I'll try 30 seconds. So I'm the Safina candidate for Nairobi governor. I'm 25 years old, and my candidature came as a shock to many. But I feel I've outlined the qualities I have that allowed me to be backed by Jimmy Richard Wanjigi and Paul Mwite for this position. I've come up with solutions for free healthcare, free education, and jobs for people across Kenya. And you can read my manifesto on harman47.com. Through strategy, this was also my manifesto launch that cost me 0 shillings, again showcasing how
Your time
I
is
can
up.
use little resources and accomplish a
Thank
lot
you.
of things.
Your time
Thanks
is up.
so much.
Thank you. Ms. Nancy Wamboi Mwadime, 30 seconds.
My closing remarks, I would want to speak to the voters and tell them that if they vote for Nancy Wamboi, they will be voting for a leader who have them at heart. And I also want to advise them that it is time they choose or they select a leader who is a leader not because he's coming from big parties, not because he's giving them money, but a leader who can go and work for the people. The leader who will go and know that he has been sent there and be a leader for Mwananchi.
Your time is up. Mr. Nyamwamu.
I want Nairobi voters to know there is a choice. And the choice is not necessarily to either choose between either Sakaja or Rigathi. There are other candidates. There have been issues where, the media has kind of contributed to the issue of us not getting our word out there. But now that we are here, it's our platform to say, Nairobi, Sakaja, Rigathi quit on you, do not be forced to choose him. Sakaja was there 5 years ago, for 5 years, didn't do anything, gave up the functions. Please, there are other choices here with manifestos.
Your time's up.
And people who are willing to work.
Thank you so much, Mr. Nyamwamu. And just to point out, this platform has been organized by a majority of media houses across the country, and you're being watched on several television stations and being heard on radio stations. So we really do appreciate you creating time for us tonight. And of course, that is how we wrap this debate. And now, ladies and gentlemen in the audience, our viewers at home, we end it here for now. Our appreciation to the candidates and their respective campaigns for honoring voters with this duty to debate.
And we thank you for watching. Our second debate involves Senator Johnson Sakaja of the United Democratic Alliance Party and Polycarp Igathe of the ruling Jubilee Party and the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition political party, and comes to you live at exactly 8 p.m. My name is Ayub Abdikadir Abdi.